Hello, anyone there? I see Gavin has spoken. I see there's 3 online. Hey, Gav, how are you? Where are you? NWC, nice to see you. Where are you all located? Can you tell me? Oh, Ontario. Beautiful place. Beautiful place. What time is it in Canada now? United States. Super. I'm guessing around 8 p.m., something along those lines. Ah, yes. Midwest. Beautiful. Sri Lanka. Wow. Whereabouts in Sri Lanka? Sosanta. Colombo, Kandy, Jaffna. Where in Sri Lanka? Wow, 10 people on now. Excellent. Kandy, love. Middle Georgia in a house. Super duper. Ant Farm Nation. Nation. Ant Farm Nation, love it. And thank you all. I couldn't have done it without any of you guys. I mean, 30,000 subs. I didn't think anyone would be interested in authentic Eastern spirituality, but it's good to see all you guys out there. Where is everyone else? There's 14 people on there, but I can't see anyone. Make yourself known. Where am I from? From Australia. I was born in Australia in a place called, here, I'll write it for you guys, in a place called Mackay. You can actually Google it up. It's a really small town, so to speak. That's where I'm from. I was born there actually 1980. So Anna from the city of Pueblo in Mexico. Wow, Mexico in the house. How good's that? Very good. So we got Mexico, we got Georgia, we got Kandy, Ontario. Love it. Love it. How have all of you been enjoying the content? Did you guys enjoy the last podcast, the 81 Meditations of the Tao Te Ching? Seattle, Russia. Wow, Alex. Great to have you. Whereabouts in Russia? St. Petersburg, Moscow, Vladivostok. Very good. Seattle's in the house. Good to have you all. Like I said, how did you guys enjoy the latest podcast? Why are you put like this video? I'm not sure what you mean. Got to go back and see it. Interested. Yes. Anyway, what content have you guys been enjoying on the channel? Like we've been putting out a lot of content, and do you like the podcast? Do you like the movies? Do you like the Enlightenment Today, Sacred Word? I always get mixed feedback. So it's not that I usually just create what I like to create. So I hope you guys all like it. Research. Okay. What do you mean by research, NWC? Also, who has read any of my books? Who has read this one? The Science and Practice of Humility. Anyone read this one before? Maybe not. What else have we got here? I got all sorts of stuff lying around here on the desk. For me, the Tao is the greatest philosophy, so I really enjoy videos about Taoism. Okay. Are you Buddhist? Well, I like to call myself Hindu, Buddhist, Taoist because I studied all 3 traditions. So I don't have any. I'm not. I don't. You could say I don't fall for favoritism. So you can learn from all 3 traditions. All right, what's Gavin saying? Been liking all the recent content, but the videos that are 40 minutes plus 8 just sometimes too long for me to watch. Okay. I do like watching podcast clips. All right, cool. Yeah, okay. Actually, I've been working on a few podcast clips. I'm not sure. I'm not sure, like, what sort of appetite you guys have for the content. Like, do you like 2 videos a week, or would you like 3 videos a week? You guys tell me. Like, I know that like one podcast can be long, so not all of you can watch all of it. But what do you prefer? Do you prefer 2 videos a week or 3 videos a week? You guys let me know. There should be a basic study in elementary school. I agree. What is your view on diet and spirituality? Follow what is natural. Love Australia. I have a good friend there. All right, awesome. Sri Lanka. There's actually a lot of Sri Lankans in Australia. Feed us. 3, feed us. I love it because the idea this was the idea, yeah. And I tried it last week, but I wasn't sure if it was so successful. I was going to do 1 podcast a week, 1 like class, like Enlightenment Today or the Sacred Word, or a podcast clip. So that sort of style 3. I don't know if that's overkill for you guys or. By the way, guys, I'm drinking this tea. Who has tried this tea before? I'm drinking this tea this morning. I've been drinking this for about 8 years. It's Ron Tea Garden's Spring Dragon Longevity Tea. I highly recommend this one, actually. It's got the what they call the immortal herb in it, Gynostemma or Jia Gulong, if you're familiar with the Thai translation of that. I'm learning so much from you. Thank you, BC. That's music to my ears. I'm just so grateful that there's people like you out there that actually are interested in this, and I'm just going to continue creating content. So I'm so glad that you're enjoying a lot. Never overkill. We are all at different places on our journeys. That's for sure. That's why I thought 2 videos a week's kind of probably the sweet spot, I think, for you guys. Especially if one is a podcast. That's not to say that I'm not working on other documentaries. I am. I have other documentaries, like scripts written. Amazing body of work, Jason. Thank you. Where are you coming from? Where are you located? Golden Sun. Where are you? Okay. Thank you. Very good. Seattle. That's right. Sorry for this question. How is situation Australia just now? Australia is fine. It's not like India or America or places in Europe. It's okay. I'm in Brisbane. Actually, there's not many. I mean, the government here are overly conservative because there's not many cases, but everyone's very worried. I'm not sure why. It's not like other places in the world, but there are places like in Victoria in Australia that are actually had done it tough a few months ago. I was looking for more information on Hinduism and looking for information on ancient texts after reading Bhagavad Gita. There's a lot more content on Hinduism coming, my friend. Like I said, like I tried to tell everyone, all of you guys on here, that I don't play favorites between Buddhism, Hinduism, or Taoism. I've actually learned from all 3 traditions. I've even learned from Jainism. I don't speak a lot about Jainism, but I think that it's important that you learn from all 3 because it gives you a better scope. Actually, I've been in circles, for example. I've been in Taoist circles. I've been in yoga circles where they're just focused on that tradition, and then the people can lose a sense of groundedness and lose a sense of spirituality. So I say keep your mind open and learn from all 3, or even if you want to learn from Jainism, especially like when you look at India, the Dharmic religions, they all have a good thread. You're the best thing since Alan Watts. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Alan was a giant, wasn't he? So I always I appreciate the compliment, but I always feel a bit. I never would compare myself to the great Alan Watts. With all 3, what are your thoughts about meditation? Why is it so important to you? Why is meditation so important to me? Well, just as food is important for the body, meditation is important for your mind and also for your whole being, actually, like your whole psychosomatic organism, but also coming in contact with what we would call the Purusha or the Atman within yoga and Vedanta. So it's important to come back to that place of stillness constantly, and that's what allows everything else in life to, function as it will. So it allows life just to be as it will, and you not getting emotionally caught up with, you know, all of the dramas. And there's a lot of dramas in the world right now, isn't there? So meditation, it's hard to say why, specifically why is it important to me, because there's just so many things about meditation that are beneficial for you. I would say, you know, incorporating a practice daily, twice daily, and sticking to that 7 days a week, have no break, and make sure, you know, you're doing it in the morning, do it in the, before bed, or even if you practice it even more. Like, for example, I when I was learning qigong and hatha yoga and these sorts of practices, the master would say, or the teacher would say, you know, you have to really be dedicated to this. You have to be doing this all the time, like not just practicing half an hour and half an hour here. You got to be practicing like 3 hours a day and so on and so on. It can get pretty nutty, but I don't think that you have to practice meditation that much. But I do recommend at least 1 hour a day. Do you practice or study Zazen at all? Yes, I do, Gavin, and I have for a long time. Actually, ironic that you mentioned that. Tomorrow on, tomorrow, Wednesday for everyone. So Wednesday night here in Australia, and Wednesday morning for you guys in North America and other places around the world. I'll have a video on a 20-minute Zazen meditation, Zen meditation. So it's a 20-minute guided meditation. I've never tried anything like that on this channel, but I wanted to kind of introduce a lot of you guys to some sort of practice of Zazen. And this is a Rinzai practice. So the guided method is a Rinzai method. So I hope you guys enjoy that. Jason, do you tend more to Taoism or Vedanta? Neither or. I love both equally. When I think about, like, when I say, for example, if we're looking at Taoism or Vedanta, it's kind of like, you know, your life ebbs and flows, right? So like you have an ebb and a flow, and certain things appeal to you at certain different moments in your life. So I find that with all of the traditions, actually, certain ones appeal to me more so than others, you know, in other times, obviously. Do you know anything about Kundalini yoga? Yes, I do. I've distanced myself from the Kundalini yoga crowd because, you know, you can get a lot of people who don't understand the traditional knowledge about Kundalini, and they relate it to some sort of new age understanding. And so, you know, no disrespect to those people, but I divorce myself from that. Nice. Meditation improves connection to source. Yes, 100%, Anfam. That's right. And just, you know, constantly bringing your mind back into that stillness, right? You're constantly getting out of the agitated mind, the wandering mind. The mind's tendency is just to wander. That's the nature of the mind. The nature of the mind is to wander, but the mind's inherent nature is empty, spontaneous, and free. And so it feels uncomfortable for a lot of people when they first start meditating, because they constantly, because they're so accustomed to wandering with their mind and following their thoughts. It's better to come back to that stillness and anchor yourself there constantly, over and over and over again. I'm a big fan of you now. Very important. All your videos, life for us. I love meditation. Thank you. Sosanta. I hope I'm saying that right. You know, sometimes I'm terrible with translations of names. Yeah, same here. There's a parallel with both, for sure. Being grateful is one of the most difficult things to keep in mind, right? Yes, there's no doubt about that, especially now. Like a lot of people get caught in the drama, right? They get caught in the drama of social and political problems and often forget your immediate life. So I tell all of you guys, don't forget your immediate life, because your immediate life usually is great when you think about it, right? Like, it's not as bad as what people make it out to be. It's kind of like, I don't know if you guys know Bill Hicks. Bill Hicks did a set once, and he said he would watch the news, and the news is telling everyone about all of these bad things and that are happening in the world. And then he'd open the window, and then he'd just hear a bird tweeting, you know what I mean? So that's kind of like what it is for us, right? Like, it's not that bad things aren't happening, but if you're constantly focusing on drama all the time, you'll lose that gratefulness you have, that gratitude you have just for your life in general, right? So Captain Sanchez, How are you, sir? Always good to see you around. Where are you located? Without having goals, how do I go about my day going from thing to thing? Do I follow my bliss, intuition? Do I just sit in stillness? That's a really that's a difficult question, isn't it? California, love it. Welcome, California. Nice work, Captain Sanchez. See, the funny thing is when you meditate, Captain Skipper, when you meditate, is that the more you meditate, the more that there's kind of like a grace in your life, like life just has a way of I wouldn't say just working itself out, but it has a way of just you have an ease with this life. So it's like I don't know if you know the story "Free and Easy Wandering" from the Zhuangzi text. The Zhuangzi, one of the great Taoist masters, and Zhuangzi talks about this free and easy wandering that we tap into when we start to have a meditative mind. Now, meditation. One of the goals of meditation is to have a meditative mind. Right? Is not to be thrown here and there by the mind. So things will come into your consciousness, but they don't stick to your mind. You don't have an emotional response or reaction to them. And this is what a meditative mind is. So naturally, from that place, you have a certain. They use in Shaivism the idea of grace. So there's kind of like this grace in your life, and so then you can freely follow your intuition. But see, natural intuition will arise more purely if you are more in a meditative mind, a still place in your mind. Because I don't know if you guys know a lot about cognitive psychology. I talk about this actually a lot in my new book, Emotional Intuition for Peak Performance. But one of the parts in this I talk about is intuitive errors. Now, that's a part of in cognitive science where we intuit things our way, but sometimes it's not correct, right? Our intuition can let us down sometimes. And so I would say, a lot of people say follow your intuition. It's like, yeah, but not. I mean, you have to have a really clear state of mind to continue to follow your intuition. You can't just go guns ablaze and follow your intuition, and then you're going to fall into all sorts of intuitive errors, and people are going to think you're an idiot and so forth and so on down the line. So, Captain, I would say try to enhance your meditation practice. Come back to that stillness and try to reside in that stillness more often than not during the day, and naturally you'll become more blissful, and life will have a way of working itself out. I know that's kind of a bit roundabout, but I hope that kind of answers your question somewhat. No problem. You can call me Kuma. Okay. Very nice. Okay. Let me have a look at some of these. I think fear of letting go and not cultivating it. A bit off topic, but what are your views on the use of psychedelics or other plant medicines? I don't have a problem with psychedelics or other plant medicines. I would say, Guyang and I speak a little bit about this on the coming Sunday's podcast. We talk a little bit about it in relation to Vedanta. But and now I'm not an expert on psychedelics or plant medicines, but what I would say is that I would not recommend people, just go and order ayahuasca on. There's a lot of these things happening now where people order ayahuasca online and they have these parties in New York and stuff like that. It's like anything, right? Like when you learn deep knowledge, you need to learn from someone who was schooled in that tradition. You can't just, even with meditation, right? You can't just sort of go into it. You have to learn from people who have some miles behind them, right? Some hours behind them on the mat. Same with psychedelics and plant medicines. I think that it's beneficial to go and actually do traditional ceremony with a proper shaman, and not. I know there's a lot of fake shamans out there now, but do a proper shamanic ceremony and do it the traditional way, and you're in good hands then. Because Gav, what a lot of people don't talk about is the amount of people who have a schizophrenic break when they have psychedelics. There's a large amount of people who have schizophrenic break. A lot of people don't talk about it. A lot of people do then say, but sometimes there's people who are 19 to 20. They're kind of that sweet zone where someone can develop schizophrenia. So But I've heard of people actually older who have had a schizophrenic episode. I hope that kind of answers your question. But in total, does nothing wrong with them as long as you have proper guidance. Do you feel sometimes drained from studying these philosophies, being educated in traditional Western culture? I find Eastern philosophies refreshing, natural, and in synchrony with our being, I guess, something like that. I'm the same. I'm from Western culture. Like I said, I was born in Australia, raised in Australia, and I'm the same. Like when I was introduced to Eastern philosophy and spirituality, it was like a fresh breeze coming to the room. all of the nonsense of my Western education, this and that was just thrown upside down, and then I realized that there was a lot of things that I actually, didn't really need from the West, from educationally speaking, and the East taught me a lot. Do I feel drained from studying these philosophies? Not at all, never. I mean, I got what do I got here? Like I got the copy of the Tao Te Ching just sitting on the desk here, and as you see here, give you guys a little sneak peek. This is my next book, and oh my god, it's just this thing never ends. So no, I don't. I love it. I wouldn't do any of this if I didn't love it. So, and I'm so glad you guys enjoy it as well. How do we buy your book in Sri Lanka? Okay, let me think about that, Kuma. I think maybe you could look on Book Depository, maybe, or just Google one of my books and see what happens in Sri Lanka. Maybe Amazon India? I don't know. Amazon India, do they deliver to Sri Lanka? Let me know. Psychology, but sometimes I feel lost in theory and missing life itself. Okay. Captain Sanchez, thank you so much. Love your channel. Hey, brother, love you. Big love to you. Again, Captain Sanchez, thanks. Big congratulations to you, Jason, on your 30,000 followers. Wishing you great success always. And to you also, brother. NWC, psychedelics should be legal. I agree. They should be legal with some sort of maybe supervision, maybe. I'm not sure, but everyone's got their own opinion. I love the 30-minute Alan Watts guided meditation. Yes, wonderful. Good question, Captain. No doubt. Have you taken psychedelics before? No, I haven't. I have had an opportunity a few times, but the circumstances of life intervened, and most of the time I'm in Asia. So, as you know, in Asia, there's not much access to psychedelics. So there's a lot of access to hashish. I don't smoke, but I had, I have smoked when I was late teenager, early 20s, but not a lot. It wasn't really for me. Would I be opposed to taking psychedelics? Probably not. But again, it depends on the setting. It depends on if I can afford to go to South America. As you guys know, it can be an expensive trip from Australia or Asia to South America. Dao Danta. I love that one. Dao Danta. Nice one. So good. That's beautiful. The East is primarily godless because they assume an infinite and eternal universe. Being eternal, it was not produced by a creator God. Yes, I know. I've explained that many times. Actually, I got a lot of videos on that. Actually, there's a couple. I can't remember the names of the videos. I've made that many videos, but there's a few videos on the Trimurti in Buddhism, and there's also there's a video I made about why God is kind of not a creator and so forth and so on. And there's also another video I created a few years ago called God is no king, and this is kind of based on the Eastern knowledge that the creator God concept doesn't exist. The only way a creator God concept you could say exists in the East would be Brahma. Remember, Brahma is part of the Trimurti, but that's just the creative principle of the universe. So when you think of the Trimurti, you're thinking of Brahma, Shiva, Vishnu. So Brahma, the creative principle, Shiva, Vishnu, the sustainer or the preserver of life, and Shiva, the destroyer of worlds or life or the ego, so to speak. So this three-pronged process actually works on all layers of our being, and actually at the universal level, which is explained within the yugas and so forth and so on. But these three make up Brahman, the ultimate reality. These are just the principles of the universe that are in sort of immanent within the universe. So Brahma, you would say, some people say, is a creator god. If you want to call them gods in Hinduism, it's more of a principle, right? So, but no, technically, no creator god. That's something to do with the Abrahamic faiths. Captain Sanchez again. Wow, is it better to have a routine every day, or just let the day be open, continuously living in the present moment and allowing whatever happens to happen? I think you need to find a balance between that, actually. I think there has to be a balance somewhere. Because I've been involved in Eastern spirituality for a long time, I have been in circles where people can be overly disciplined, and they kind of lose their spontaneity. You know what I mean? They lose their spontaneity. They're over disciplined, and then they're not sort of allowing life to come into their life. You know what I mean? They're not allowing for that spontaneous nature to just happen and do its thing. And so I would say you need to find a balance there, Captain. It's about, it depends on how much spiritual training you've had. I would say a lot of discipline to begin with can be good, but you also want to allow for a bit of leeway. You want to allow life to just let life in a little bit, and just see where life takes you. So for me, for example, like, yes, I do meditate every day. I'm disciplined in that, but I try to stay disciplined, like with my writing and creating content for you guys. But sometimes there's just days where you just got to, let the day do its thing. You grab a book, go for a walk in nature. Remember that we don't need to be in a hurry in life. Yeah, life is not a rush. We can just take our time, chill, and we don't need any more people like being anxious and got to get after it, got to grind, got to do this and that. We've got enough of those people in the world. Captain, you seem like one of those guys who's very attracted to the deeper knowledge and want to just actually live life as opposed to life living you. So that's kind of the reality a lot of people live in, right? Life lives them instead of people actually live life. So yes, do you follow Swami Sarvapriyananda's lectures? Gotta love him. Yes, I love Swamiji. I have been watching Swamiji. I came across him 2014, 15. Been in communication. Gotta love him. Yes, highly recommend the Vedanta New York channel if you're interested in that. Is your life goal to attain enlightenment? Strange question. I don't know. I think having goals depends on what you mean by having. See, we think of goals as you need to attain something. The irony with enlightenment is it's like a goalless reality. It's not something. Obviously, it's something that we should all aspire to experience. But the irony is, if you're fixated on goals, you'll never reach this place of enlightenment. So I know that answer may be a bit of a cop-out, but space-time is flat, therefore the universe is eternal. Okay. What's your outlook on humanity? Will we avoid destroying ourselves? Yes, we will, but we have some painful lessons to learn along the way. I think that we're learning some of those lessons now deeply, but we've always like let's expand our scope, right? We're looking at this pandemic. We're looking at all the turmoil around the world and so forth and so on. But it wasn't so long ago we went through two world wars, and we came out of that. Somehow we came out of that. All of us were not alive then, but we came out of that, and we are where we are now. The problem is when there's a lot of people in power or just people in general that have a biased worldview, then we can sometimes crap on the progress that we've made. So, but I always like to be optimistic about humanity because I believe in humanity, and I believe. Well, look at all of you guys here right now, right? This just 10 years ago would have been impossible for us to even communicate like this. So, excellent. Hi, Jason. Enjoying. Recently, I've been doing some research on a Devante. Thoughts on that? John C. in the house. Very good. John C's a long-time supporter of the channel. Always good to see John. A Devante. Can't say a lot on it, John. I have to be honest, and I don't want to, spread more propaganda. I mean, I would prefer to know a lot more than I could to speak about that. Sarah, great to see you. Always good. A lot of these familiar names. I just love you guys. There's just so many familiar names. Do you have a spiritual teacher? Many actually, and different traditions. Actually, Swami Sarvapri Nanda is one of my teachers. Actually, going back to let's rewind 12 years ago. One of my spiritual teachers, I don't know if you know who he is, Muji. I don't really follow Muji much anymore because I'm doing this but like back 12 years ago, long time ago, Muji was one of my teachers. So, but there's many other teachers. Like actually, there's some teachers in Thailand, which you wouldn't know. Live in, especially in northern Thailand. Some of the monasteries I've stayed up in northern Thailand, and there's just too many to mention. Actually, Sarah, like I would say that probably the result of what I do on my channel is the result of many spiritual teachers and not specifically just one. So as you will see, like some people who talk about Eastern philosophy and so forth and so on may have not a bias, but they teach from one particular angle. Like say if they're trained in Advaita Vedanta, they're trained in one particular angle, right? So I've maybe I'm a bit crazy, I don't know, but because I have a love for all the traditions in the East. So I've never been like saying like this is my teacher, like this one person, so to speak. It's an accumulation of people. Thoughts on Krishna? First name, last name. I love it. Thoughts on Hare Krishna? Are you talking about the Hare Krishna movement? Or are you talking about the mantra Hare Krishna? Mantra Hare Krishna, love it. The movement, I don't know. We'll leave that. Have you ever met any Tibetan lamas? Yes, I have. Many, especially in northern India, particularly Dharamsala, where the Dalai Lama lives. I'd never met the Dalai Lama, though. Never met the Dalai Lama. Been around the Dalai Lama, never met him personally. But met other lamas. Swami Joshua Ortiz, Swami Vivek, Jason Gregory. I don't know if that's a play on words or... Yeah, I love it. What was the seed that allowed you to grow so profoundly in Tao, and how do I find it? I don't know if I've grown so profoundly. It's hard for me to say. I don't know. My wife often talks to me about that sort of stuff, and I just sort of, brush it aside because I feel just like an ordinary person, but I can talk about what we talk about. So, and I can reach an audience like you guys. I just love it. Love you guys. Love this stuff. And how to grow it? I don't know. Just be sincere in it. Like be sincere in your meditation practice. Practice a healthy detachment from the world. That's one of the things that's actually helped me a lot. Like I told you guys many times, I don't really watch the news. You know what I mean? I don't watch the news. I'm not up to speed with the dramas in the world. And to be honest, they call that actually vairagya. In it's actually a practice in Hinduism, Vedanta, and so it's that's helped me a lot. To be honest with you, that's helped me a lot. Just not being attracted to the world. So I would say that actually will help your spiritual practice. A lot of people discount that. They say, but shouldn't you, care about the world? It's not that you don't care. You got to remember, just 50 years ago, we didn't have all of this social media and so forth and so on. You didn't know about half the things in the world. So why should you know about it now? We need to ask yourself. You need to ask yourself that question. So a healthy distance from the world will help, because it's not natural to know everything in the world. Psychologically and cognitively, we weren't designed to process all of that. So, no. Yes. So, practice a bit of distance. Gabrielle, love it. What motivated you to start meditating every day? Living in India, to be honest with you. Living in India, learning from the traditions way back, long time ago, actually, now. And so living in India, actually, I was meditating before I lived in India, and but my practice was kind of like, flimsy here and there. Life was getting in the way a lot back then. I was working a lot. I was doing odd jobs here and there. I wasn't doing any of this, and I was just trying to. All of what I'm doing now is just a byproduct of me being absorbed in the East and so forth and so on. So, Susanta, okay, have a nice day, dear. I have to go now. Oh, okay, goodbye. And good luck to everyone in Sri Lanka. Okay, what else we got here? Force user. Hi, all. Love it. Gavin, will this live stream be on this channel after it's over? Yes, it will be. Captain Sanchez, which philosophies are you devout to? Taoism, Zen, Buddhism, Vedanta, any others? All of them. Particularly, I will mention the ones that I'm devout to. Taoism, obviously, Zen Buddhism, and actually both Theravada Buddhism and Mahayana Buddhism. So, for example, Zen Buddhism you got to remember, is a subsect of Mahayana Buddhism. So, I have a deep love for both Theravada and Mahayana Buddhism. I've come into contact from living in Thailand a lot of the forest tradition of Theravada Buddhism. So, deep love there for Theravada Buddhism, but also Mahayana Buddhism, particularly because of Zen Buddhism. Yes, and Vedanta and yoga, in relation to Hinduism, are Advaita Vedanta specifically, and traditional yoga, Jnana yoga actually more so than Hatha yoga, have been some of my main practices, focuses of philosophy, and what I'm actually devout to personally. Muji lives here in Portugal. Yes, he does. I know that. High Force, you can't talk fast enough. Okay. Faster, Jason, you got to get swamped. All right. Sarah, do you plan to write more books? Sarah? Yes. There's already another book here. So actually, I've been writing this since 2018, and I've been just like adding bits and pieces here and there. Going to write 2 books next year. I don't know how that's going to be possible with all of this YouTube stuff, but all right, maybe I'll clone myself, and then we'll go from there. Have you ever thought of recording your books and putting them on Spotify? I have, but that's up to the publisher. Thoughts on Stoics, Christopher? Hi, Christopher. Where are you located? Thoughts on Stoics? Love it. How do you view astrology, crystals, and such when practicing Taoism or any other Eastern philosophy? Can it all be rooted from the Tao? Not really into astrology or crystals. I don't really know what to say on them. I stick more to the traditional knowledge, so forth and so on. Not that astrology is not traditional knowledge, but astrology has been warped over time, and crystals and stuff like that. I'm not interested in it. Sorry, John C. Sorry, I misspelled it. Advaita Vedanta. Sorry, bro. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking, Devante. Is there something? Is this some sort of philosopher I missed? John, love it. Are you enjoying Advaita Vedanta? Are you enjoying the study? What books are you studying? I know that I've mentioned plenty on the channel, particularly the Mandukya Upanishad, anything by Shankara, the Vivekachudamani by Shankara, many good ones. Sarah, what do you say the biggest obstacle on a spiritual path is? The belief in ourselves, the belief in our own mind, and that mind's entanglement with the dramas of the world. That's kind of 2 things, but they kind of go hand in hand. We often, externalize our spiritual practice and our spiritual development when it's always about our persona and the belief and the attachment in our persona and the over-attachment in it is an obstacle to all sorts of spiritual progress. And actually, that's what actually gets entangled with worldly dramas, because it's a subjective view of the world. It's a limited view of reality. That's why, you know, I don't know if you remember that article, Why the World is Always in Conflict, where I kind of tackle that, Sarah. I tackle that a little bit, where our sense of persona is kind of what is eclipsing and is an obstacle to reality itself. And so I'd say that, look, there's many things, right? I could tell you many things, like a wax lyrical, whatever. But if you pointed a gun at my head, that's what I would tell you. Captain, love it. I would say to grow in the Tao means to live the Tao Te Ching and other Taoist teachings. 100%. 100%. Look, if you want to live in the Tao and you want to move with the Tao, if you want to be one with the Tao, like an aperture of the universe, you have to actually understand the Tao Te Ching and the Zhuangzi, right? So then you have to understand a lot of things. You have to understand how your subjective viewpoint is riddled with external morality, and there's so many things. One of the books I'm going to work on next year is the finer elements of Taoism, and I can't wait to share that one with you guys. But that's going to take probably about 3-4 months to write, and probably won't be published until 2022, so it's a while away. But that's what I'm really going to get into. I'm going to dive into a lot of the deeper elements of Taoism in this book I'm going to write next year. And like what you said, Captain, you're spot on. But we have to really understand that sort of natural mentality. It's funny, isn't it? Because it's like Fritjof Capra once said. Fritjof Capra, he wrote the Tao of Physics, and he said that there was a really interesting quote where it was kind of like, it's ironic that we learn Taoism, we learn Zen Buddhism particularly, to become natural again. It's strange, right? How can something that's natural become natural again? So, you know, that's kind of but that's what's happening, right? Our nature was warped because of education, socialization. So it's important to, you know, come back into harmony with yourself, and then fall back into alignment with the way nature is, and that's the way of the Tao. AJS, hey Jason, your podcast and interviews have helped me so much. Experience the Tao. Love you. Thank you. Love you too, AJS. Thank you. I feel the love. Segun Doministro, favorite tea, masala chai. Masala chai, 100% masala chai. In India, Gayang makes a beautiful masala chai. I hope you guys can experience it one day. If we're all in the same room, I would tell Guy to get the big pot out and we'll brew her up. Love it. Love masala chai. Masala chai, my favorite. This is a problem when I go to India. See, when I'm living in India, I just get on a masala chai diet, and, you know, sometimes I tell the chai guy, don't hold back on the sugar, young fella. Yeah, it can be a problem. Second tea is this one, like I mentioned before. Spring Dragon Longevity Tea by Ron Teagarden. You can get this online anywhere. It's got the immortal herb in it, Gynostemma, Geogulong, whatever you want to call it. Got myself a brew right here. Let me know what you guys are drinking at the moment. Captain, astrology and crystals imply dualism. 100%. You're actually right there. I think Alan Watts touches on astrology specifically in one of his books. Very good point. Gavin, I like to hear your views on death, fear of death and afterlife. Fear of death. No need to be afraid of death, even though I guess we all think about our own mortality, right? We all think about our own death. It's something that it actually is a good contemplation. It's a great contemplation to have, to think about your death, actually. There's Sarah actually says here, have you read Tibetan Book of the Dead? Yes, I have. What do you think? Love it. So, Gav, Tibetan Book of the Dead is actually a great book to read when you think about death. Do I believe in an afterlife? Yes, I do. That's just due to my understandings of Hinduism, Taoism, Buddhism, and the way that consciousness is actually according to the great traditions. Like when we look at the way that the great traditions are, then that, you know, they set a framework, and it's almost scientific in its approach of how consciousness departs the body and either finds a new body or merges with the greater totality. Call it Brahman, call it Tao, what have you. So I believe in afterlife in the sense that you are reincarnated in another not sure what form that will be. If we use the Buddhist terminology or Hindu terminology, usually it depends on your karma. So it depends on the samskaras, the subliminal impressions and mental impressions, and subliminal psychological imprints you've garnered in your life that affect your vasanas, your tendencies, your habits, which obviously affect your karma. So when you're acting, when you haven't, in a sense, reversed that motion and started to clean the basement out, that energy, which is your samskaras, which actually contributes to your persona, is what comes back after death, according to the great knowledge of the East. Now, being traditionally trained, I believe that, and I'm not going to tell you categorically that that's what happens, because I don't want to be an absolutist. And so, but if the knowledge rings true with you, then that's great. And there are many books to read on it. As Sarah mentioned, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, amazing text, actually goes through the 3 layers of the 3 phases after death, where there's kind of this phase where you after death, you're in that pure place. You're in that, call it Brahman, Tao, the Dharmakaya, whatever you want to call it. But if your karma or your samskaras are strong, then the energy of that will go into the second phase, and then that's where a lot more karma comes in. And if you haven't had a lot of training, then meditative training, then you'll come back down to, you'll go to the 3rd phase, and then you're back into a womb, and then the whole process goes on again in a different form. You don't have to believe that. I'm not telling you have to believe that, but it's a pretty where that knowledge came from. Some very deep meditators in Tibet and also in northern India, Nepal, these places that went into the death experience. And there's actually been neurological research. I don't know if you guys have read the book Waking, Dreaming, Being by Evan Thompson. And I love this book, and he goes into a lot about the actual science behind a lot of Tibetan meditators. So after death, there's like this, some reason there's this presence for like, let's say 2 weeks, right? 2 weeks, there's something in the body that's still kind of like dead, but something is there. And there's a lot of research. I don't want to butcher that knowledge, because Evan's book's just sitting over there on the bookshelf, but don't have time to go and get that. Gavin, you are a very knowledgeable person. Gavin, so are you, and you're a very graceful and humble man, no doubt. And old Zeus, wow, this is getting crazy. Hard to keep up. What do you enjoy most about life, and what do you dislike about life? I love life in general. Dislike, not much to dislike. I guess people being overreactive, overly emotional about things that don't really matter. For me, I've lived in the East. I've lived in 3rd world countries. And especially when I come back to the West and I see people complaining about frivolous things and like thinking it's the end of the world, sometimes I have zero tolerance for that. Wish your books were on Spotify. Write to Inner Traditions, my publisher. So if you want to pursue an education on Eastern philosophies, where should I start? I'm currently taking intro to Eastern philosophy in my community college. That's probably a good place to start, to be honest with you, Joshua. I would say, absorb yourself in books. A lot of books, even maybe read my books. Find out, especially for like Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, find what the main texts are. So Taoism, I would say, Tao Te Ching, Zhuangzi. Buddhism, the Nikayas of the Buddha, which are the original teachings. And for Hinduism, I would say read the Upanishads and maybe the Bhagavad Gita. And this is just a start. I'm just telling you as a start. So I would say self-study for Eastern philosophy is actually the most important. But sometimes, like, the problem with going, like, yes, community college is great. The problem is that sometimes the teachers can be overly academic, and then we have, all sorts of misinterpretations about the text, so forth and so on, or an over-analysis of the text, which sometimes is important, mind you. That's what we do here on this channel. But you don't want to go too far with that. You know what I mean? There has to be a fine balance. Christopher, here he is. I'm from Arizona. I love Arizona. I mix Stoic ethics with Taoist metaphysics. Wu-wei every day. Love it. Love it, brother. Love that. Sarah, lemon balm tea you're drinking. Wow, yeah, I'd like to get some of that. Aaron Shepherd, we are stuck in a program created to distract from our I ate thirst for the way. Okay, I love it. Alex, how on earth do crystals imply dualism? Oh, that's for another question from someone else. Force, I really love listening to your talks. Thank you. May the force be with you. Jason, what do you think about yin yang yuan? I was going to tackle that and where it comes from. Can't speak too much about that at the moment. That's a topic for another time. And on teas, I like Soto Zen much more than Rinzai when I was trying to practice Zen. Yeah, horses for courses. And on tea, I love both, actually. I love both Soto and Rinzai. The video I will bring out, like I said, tomorrow on Wednesday is a 20-minute Rinzai Zen meditation, but actually is practiced sometimes in the Soto sect as well. So Aaron, innate, auto-corrected about the book Christ, the Eternal Tao. Okay. Christopher, have you watched Avatar, The Last Airbender? No. Is that a documentary? Enlighten me there. Force, can you choose where to be born, or is it random? A little bit above my pay grade. That's at the level of Brahman, my friend. Not for, well, what determines where you are born is your karma, or your samskaras, your vasanas. So in some sense, you don't have a choice, but your karma, your vasanas, your samskaras are choosing it for you, because it will find the right substance environment that is suited for your particular spiritual growth. So that's kind of a mix of randomness, but also it's something of your own choosing as well, right? Because your karma is going to decide that. And on teas, so the mother birth of thousands of things is the birth of crystals. Okay. John C., the book I ordered is I Am That. Love it. Nisargadatta. I watched a couple YouTube videos on Vedanta, found it interesting. You're doing a great job on the live stream. Thank you, sir. John, I always love your appreciation. I Am That is an amazing book, my friend. Actually, I would like to recommend this. There's a documentary. I forget the name of the documentary. It's about Nisargadatta, some of his students who were with him in the 70s and in Mumbai. And he was such a humble man, Nisargadatta Maharaj. He smoked his little biddies and he had a shop, and he's kind of like, you think of the old granddad that has all the wisdom. He's like that, but he's an amazing being, and I love I Am That. And on T, I apologize for the typos. Multitasking is not my power. It's not my power much either. Okay, Captain Aaron, we are the program itself. We are the entire cosmos in its entirety. That's true. Sarah, I can see you work on documentary films about Eastern philosophy. What do you think about it? Yes, I can see that too. Like I said, I have some scripts written for other documentaries. It's a lot about prioritizing my time at the moment, Sarah. Like I'm doing a lot of content I'm creating a lot of content on YouTube. Like I said, I'm writing books. Yeah, actually, to be honest, I love writing books. I love writing books. I love creating YouTube content too. Documentaries, I love it, but there's a lot of work that goes into it, a lot of fine details. It can be super, super difficult. And there's a lot of things that you guys have probably noticed in some of my documentaries, the Yugas one, the 2 Art of Effortless Living ones. And there's a lot of things in there that sometimes the viewer doesn't notice, but the creator notices it, So sometimes you can spend say, for example, you can spend for a 15 seconds little transition or something like that, you can spend 3 hours on it. It can be really nutty, So I don't, I will be creating more documentaries, but It'll be probably next year. What do we see? Force, I see. Sarah, can dualism lead to non-dualism, vice versa? I think so. And actually, I have a video on that. I have a Ask Jason on that. If you go back through my list, you will see actually the thumbnail, and it has kind of dualism, non-dualism, and about how actually yoga as a tradition can lead to non-dualistic being or non-dualistic thinking. And there's no surprises there. I don't know who has read the Yoga Sutras in the comments here. I don't know if many of you have read the Yoga Sutras, but Yoga Sutras can lend when you have a deep understanding of Prakriti, like all the energy and the mind of the universe, and Purusha, the pure awareness. Pure Purusha is kind of, in a sense, eminent through all of Prakriti, right? So it's a technicality to say it's a form of dualism, but in some sense, it's kind of a form of non-dualism. It's kind of like Vedanta, right? Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta, we speak in dualistic terms, but it's pointing to a non-dualistic outcome or a non-dualistic perspective. So yes, and non-dualism lead to dualism. Maybe if someone's disenchanted with non-dualism, I don't know. But all right, Chris Beasley. I've recently discovered One Buddhism, as there is a center near my home. It feels closer to Tao. Have you heard of it? And if so, what are your thoughts? Heard of it, Chris, but don't know enough about it to comment on it, my friend. Sorry about that. But that's great. That's great. That's wonderful. Close to Taoism is. Can I ask you this? Is One Buddhism similar to Zen, like the Rinzai and Soto sect? Please enlighten me there. Christopher, is the most popular show? It's the most popular show on Netflix, animated show with martial arts, Eastern wisdom, and another great hero's journey to enjoy. Okay, awesome. I don't have Netflix. I don't have TV or anything like that, but I will try to find that. Gavin, have you read any of Ram Dass' books? Yes, a long time ago. There was one. I would have to search for it. I don't want to search for it while we're doing this, but there was one that I was really profoundly blown away by. And it's not Be Here Now. It's another one. It's one he wrote probably in the 80s. I was really sad to see Ram Dass die this year. Amazing individual. Really, loving presence. What can you say? Captain Sanchez, you already have some great documentaries on your own channel. A couple I've seen. Great stuff. You're the man, Captain. You're the man. Thank you. And I'm so glad that you like those documentaries. Joshu, have you ever visited the Central Coast of California? When you say Central Coast, you mean the Bay Area, or where? I've only in California. I've only visited Los Angeles, and it was to do a lecture. Actually, it was to do a lecture in 2015. The only time I've been to America was in 2015. So I lectured in New York, Los Angeles. Chris, Emotional Intuition for Peak Performance is a hard book to put down. It's great. You're the man, Chris. You're the man. Thank you for that. Thank you. Here it is here. Here it is here. Where is it? Where is it? There it is there. Love it. I absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. It's, a lot of work went into that book. Guys, I want to ask you a question. Which book do you like the most? I've actually got all the books here. I got Science and Practice of Humility, Fasting the Mind, Effortless Living, my wife's personal favorite, which ironically has been the least read, Enlightenment Now. So Guyang, she loves that one. But what am I saying? She loves all my books, but she likes that one particularly, yeah? Aha. What is your opinion of zero energy universe hypothesis? Don't know enough about it, my friend, and would not like to speculate. Stella Luna, what do you think of Christina Lopez, Shamanic Foundation for Spiritual Healing? Have no idea who she is. I look forward to one-on-one healing. Any suggestions? I really need help with past scars. Okay. I would say if you look at my podcast on spiritual bypassing, dealing with shadow work, so forth and so on. Also, I have other videos on spiritual bypassing. Check that out. I'm not saying that you're spiritual bypassing, but I do look at a little bit of shadow work in that. Aaron, your explanation of Taoist thinking is some of the best I've heard. Thank you, Aaron. Much love and appreciation to you, my friend. Captain Sanchez, can't wait to read all of your books. I can't wait for you to read them as well, my friend. Sarah, what are your thoughts on Japanese gardens as spiritual experience? There is something very feng shui about its design and conducive to meditation. How do you explain that? Sarah, I got an interesting story to tell you. Back when I was 19, I was trained in horticulture. I have a diploma and so forth and so on in horticulture, and the company I worked for created Japanese gardens. So in some sense, this path chose me, right? So I was creating Japanese garden to make a Zen garden. And so not only do I know how aesthetic they are and how calming they are on our being, I even know how to make them. Even though I haven't made a Zen garden for 15 years now, but I was thrust into that experience, and it was really enjoyed it. Thoroughly enjoyed it, actually. So thoughts on this as a spiritual experience? It is a spiritual experience. There's a lot of silence, and like you said, they are following some certain natural properties of feng shui. And so that's why, I don't know if any of you have been to a Zen monastery or have been in a Zen Japanese Zen garden. It can be very therapeutic. So Christopher Chilin, I believe 2020 is a catalyst for awakening society out of consumerist stupor, realignment of values. That's a great point. And I think that may be true. I think you might be right on there, Christopher. I think that 2020 is one of those things, right? 2020 is such a crazy year for all of us. We've all been locked up, chained up, can't get out, can't do anything, so forth and so on. The world's gone mad from a certain perspective, but there are a lot of lessons to learn, right? Usually through tough times create tough people and create deeper lessons and values for the future going forward. We've learned that from all of the experiences of the past, right? We've learned that, not saying that we needed to go through 2 world wars, but those 2 world wars created incomparable human values for the future. Rhino George, Essential Teachings of Hinduism by Kerry Brown is worth reading. Thank you. Ken, I just met Ken last night from Malaysia. Love it. Greetings from Malaysia. Enjoyed The Art of Effortless Living 1 and 2 very much. Yet to watch others. New to your channel. Great stuff. Great stuff, Jason. Thank you, Ken. If I'm right, you're from Ipro. Maybe I pronounced that wrong, but thank you for being with us. Captain Sanchez, shout outs to your wife. Thank you to her as well. Captain, she appreciates it. She's not home at the moment. She's out teaching violin. She loves to come home and especially on the podcast and read what you guys have to say. She's been a big help for the podcast, and I've only, I of course only love and gratitude for my wife, but she has really helped the podcast come along. And instead of me just gibbering to a camera like this, actually having someone to bounce off is actually very helpful. Sarah, what do we got here? How far are we down? All right, Sarah. Stephen Hawking, what are your thoughts on him in spiritual means? I like Stephen. I think, yeah. I mean, I've read one of his books a long time ago. What are my thoughts spiritually? Not so sure. Not so sure, because I'd have to refresh my mind a lot about him, his life, and his teachings. But I'm not I'm not on the grindstone of everything. Usually, the focus is always Eastern spirituality. Grassa, long-time friend. Greetings, Jason. Much love to you, sister. Joshu, do you have any experience of altered higher states of consciousness? Yes, but probably not in the way that you think. A lot of people over-sensationalize their deep states of consciousness, their higher states of consciousness. And that is a new age kind of mentality that people have developed, where they develop this, altered state of consciousness. And I'm traveling through the cosmos, dude. And, all of these things. This is not, we got to keep it real, keep it genuine, keep it grounded. And that's what we do on this channel, right? We study the great traditions, and we know that fundamentally we are human. And it's actually a beautiful thing to be human rather than superhuman. And I think that a lot of people misinterpret Eastern philosophy for being superhuman. Eastern philosophy is about being radically human. That's what it's about. And that's what we need to understand. So the high states of consciousness, altered states that I've experienced, are not even like anything to worry about. It's like, for example, if someone experiences siddhis, right? Like supernatural powers or so forth and so on, that you hear a lot about. That is a distraction on the path, because what you're trying to attain is a meditative mind. You're trying to attain a meditative mind. You're not trying to, be Spider-Man and, Superman and the Incredible Hulk. You're trying to be a superhero. You're trying to be radically and fundamentally human. Christopher, the art of effortless living is amazing. Thank you, sir. Stella Luna, how do you feel about 5G technology? Not so worried about it. Don't listen to a lot of conspiracy theories, because I do know some professional conspiracy theorists, and they feed off drama and make up their own things. So I don't want to add to the speculation about 5G technology. I don't have like enough technology, enough phones to be to be overly concerned, but I know 5G is out there and so forth and so on. So I'm sure someone's going to go, but Jason, it's out there and this and that. You can't be worried about everything, right? If you're going to walk around worried about everything, you're going to be concerned about everything, and it's going to distract you from your spiritual practice and what you're supposed to be doing here, which is to be radically and fundamentally human, and to, realize the formless in this life. Gavin, I have to go now, but it was nice conversing with you, Jason. Have a great day. Gavin, much love, brother. Much love. Thank you for all the great questions. Only love for you. Daniel Raymond. Look at that. Woo, there he is. Hello, my friend. Only love for Dan. Only love for Dan. I hear it's quite strict in Australia. Dan, it is. Yeah, it is and it isn't. You know what I mean? Like, I get out and about. No dramas around here. In Brisbane, the Queensland government, my friend, probably one of the most conservative governments you've ever seen in your life. And it's over the top conservative. Victoria, on the other hand, the state where Melbourne is, had a spike about, let's say, 2 months ago, but they got a handle on it. You know what I mean? It's compared to other nations, I think Australia is over the top. But everyone's new to the situation. What can you say, right? We're all new to the situation, this pandemic. A lot of people are going around blaming governments and this and that. And when haven't our government acted incompetently? They've always acted, in most cases, acted incompetently, right? So that they fumbled the ball during this pandemic is no surprises. So strict in Australia, yes and no. You're in the US, Dan. So the US is probably more open than Australia, actually, which sounds silly, right? The Queensland border here in Queensland is closed. What can I say? Anyway, what else do we have here? We have Christopher. Thank you for doing live chat with us, Sensei. Thank you, Christopher Sensei. Joshu, have you read The Tao of Physics? Yes, I have. I love Fritjof Capra. I actually mentioned him earlier. I don't know if you were here. I mentioned Fritjof Capra earlier. I love The Tao of Physics. And I love Fritjof Capra. He's actually wrote a few books that I like. He wrote a book on Leonardo. He's wrote a lot of good books, and I love it. It's a different perspective, put it that way. Whether you want to take it for literal and exactly the way it is in relation to Tao, that's up to you. But I like the book. I like the book. Sarah, the world needs such beautiful souls like you and your wife. Thank you. And you as well. And everyone else in the comment section. We're doing it together, people. We're doing it together. I'm nothing without you guys. So WM, what's your opinion about the mass great awakening in modern spirituality, or from Taoism, Hinduism, Buddhism? 15 years ago, I used to think that there was some sort of mass spiritual awakening, so forth and so on. It depends, it depends on what you mean by that. Like, what is your perspective of awakening? Like, are you talking about people becoming awake to their true nature, that they're not the person? Are you looking at it from the Buddha's perspective, that I am awake? So this is a difficult question to answer, right? Because you need to add more nuance to it. Because some Westerners who are interested in Eastern spirituality will say, "Oh, there's a great spiritual awakening happening." And then when you ask them, well, what do you mean by that? And it's kind of like, singing Kumbaya on the street and so forth and so on. And that's probably not, spiritual awakening. Spiritual awakening in the reality would be coming to know who you truly are and becoming a very humble person and, living a very compassionate and forgiving life and not being in conflict with anyone or any sort of situation. Crypto Lotus what is it? Eastern or Dharma philosophy is about trying to be emotionally balanced in our soul journey in this world of the senses. Be a pro at surfing the waves of samsara chaos. Greetings from Nusantara. I love it. Well said. Rhino George, love your documentaries, Art of Effortless Living series. Thank you, Rhino. They help me get connected to my true self. Music to my ears, my friend. Music to my ears. Captain Sanchez again. Love it. 2 books that I just finished reading that I highly recommend to everyone are both by Alan Watts, titled Silence the Mind and The Book. You just mentioned my favorite Alan Watts book, Sanchez, Captain Sanchez. I love the book. Actually, last time I went to, sometimes when I go on sadhana, a long-term spiritual retreat, I try to gather like 10 texts with me to keep me grounded, and when I'm away from the internet and away from society in general. And ironically, like most of the time, I take the book with me. And I know that I've had a few friends, Vedantic friends, say to me, like, "What are you reading that one for?" Like, but then you give it to them, and they're like, "God damn, this boy knows what he's talking about." It's I love it. I love it. The book by Alan Watts, the Game of Black and White, if you remember Captain Sanchez, making up the crux of that book. I love it. Absolutely love it. Rhino, lots of love to you, my friend. Now I'm starting to keep up with you guys. What's wrong with you guys? Emma, hello. Do you believe we can cut the cord's energy between 2 people because it is destructive? Please. Emotionally, but that's up to you. Actually, that's a spiritual process for yourself to kind of contact with, right? If you have an emotional connection with someone, then the energy of that, it depends on how sensitive that is. How sensitive that is. So, I would say that yes, you can, but you have to be sincere on what you're doing, your spiritual process. Yeah. So, sorry, I had to delete a message there by Joshua Thomas. He was just flooding the chat. All right. So let's have a look here. What have we got here? Christopher. Oh, so sorry, Emma, to get back to what you were saying, yes, you can, but it will take spiritual work. You'll have to dig deep, because sometimes those emotional knots that you'll feel in your stomach about certain relationships you've had will take time. They will take time, and we've all had that, right? I've had good friends, for whatever reason, fall out of accord with what I'm doing and what's happening in my life, and then they just disappear and so forth and so on. I've had intimate relationships back in my early 20s that dropped away, and it takes time, but it depends on the magnitude of the relationship. Especially if we're talking about relationships in the family, this can be a whole different ballgame, because there's a lot of samskaras and a lot of things to think about there. Christopher, did Jesus encounter Eastern religion? Buddha 700 years before Jesus. A couple of great books on that, Christopher. There's 2 books now. I'm having a bit of a brain fade here about the title of the books, but just I think one book is called Jesus in India. There's a couple of books about if Jesus had traveled to India. And actually, in the books, they say Jesus had traveled to India to learn the way of the Buddha specifically. So I think it's Chandigarh in North India. They actually believe that there is the tomb of Jesus there. They call Jesus in India Saint Isha, and so they believe actually that Jesus is buried there. I think it's Chandigarh. I might be wrong, but I think it's Chandigarh, or it's somewhere in that northern region. Do I believe that he went there? Well, it would just be speculation. I've read those books. There is a lot of decent evidence, you could say, but there's also speculation in those books. But a lot of people always ask, what happened to the 18 years of Jesus? Where was he? What was he doing? Was he chilling? Did he go on a holiday and never come back? Some people believe he went to India. So, Joshu, so I'm a bit on the chubby side. Do you have any good exercise routines to lose weight and maintain a healthy lifestyle? Okay, honesty is good, especially if you ask. Can you guys see that? A fire engine or something. Good honesty and good to actually encounter if you do have a weight issue. Good exercise routines. I would just say develop a routine and make it cardio based for at the beginning. You don't need to get into any sort of crazy weight regime and so forth and so on. But I actually mention exercise routines and stuff like that, and stuff like that in Emotional Intuition for Peak Performance. I explain the what do you call it? The four fundamentals. So meditation, sleep, nutrition, exercise. And so exercise makes up one of the four fundamentals. And it's just about keeping the body in good shape, producing BDNF in the brain, which helps you keep vibrant and reduce also the depression and that people can feel just from social life and so forth and so on. So let's have a look here. Sarah, Jesus lived in India. Give Sarah the prize. Thank you. All the best for you and your family. Emma, thank you. And much love to you, sister. Much love. Sarah, yes, in Kashmir supposedly is a tomb. There you go. Very, very good. John C., the man. The first book that got me going on Taoism was Dyer's Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. I was wondering what your thought of Western interpretation of Tao. I love it. And I love Wayne Dyer too. There's a few things here, right? Wayne and a lot of people who teach Taoism can be guilty of this. There's a concentration on one element of Taoism, right? They concentrate on one element of Taoism. So, which often is Wu Wei. And, you could say I'm guilty of that as well, because Art of Effortless Living, my book, I'm teaching Wu Wei how it is in the traditional knowledge. And Wayne kind of doesn't go into that much into that in his in Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life and other of his interpretations. But I think that the focus on, coming back into harmony with the Tao, about effortless living, obviously we have to keep those in our forefront of our mind when we think about Taoism, but there are other elements that help accentuate that. Right. So if you, a lot of people talk about the Tao Te Ching, and as you know from my channel, one of my pet peeves is people just think about Taoism as the Tao Te Ching, when you need to think also of the Zhuangzi text, right? And the Zhuangzi text helps you accentuate that way to live in harmony with Wu Wei, like the ability to have a life which is free and easy. There's an ease in your life, and your life moves in harmony with the Tao, the way of. But the Tao, the Zhuangzi helps accentuate that, because it gives you a mentality of how you should be morally, how you should be like your ethics, and it gives you just the way that you need to be sort of in the world in some sense as what Hans Georg Moeller says, sort of as a genuine pretender, right? So your life is lived from the zero perspective, but you play this role, right? I'm playing a role now, as all you guys are. My role is Jason. It's a role. But in Taoism, what needs to be understood is all roles are played. So you play your role well. But you never lose sight of the zero perspective, that the still point within the center of the Tao. That's the absolute Tao, right? I talk about it in Effortless Living. You don't want to ever lose sight of that. That's very important. Captain Sanchez, if you can leave us with your most important principle or lesson, what would it be? For me, to others, is simply to enjoy the present moment. That's the most essential, in my opinion. One of the most important things it's kind of like what I said to Sarah before, understand who you truly are. Because not so much about like enjoying the present moment. If you understand who you are, and that this subjective person that you believe you are, that's what actually eclipses the present moment, right? So Jason, with all of his thoughts and all of his projections about what should happen in the future and what happened, and being handicapped or suffering from what happened in the past, eclipses the actual present moment where life exists. And so it's the problem is the persona. Is dwelling in the persona, in the ego. That's where the problem resides. And so you want to Captain Sanchez, you just have to explain to people, do you really know, for example, the term they use in Buddhism and Taoism, your original face? Now, what they mean by original face is they mean your original being, right? Before socialization, before all of this education, before all of your conditioning, family conditioning, religious conditioning, social, cultural conditioning. Do you know your original face? Before, they say in Zen, before you were born, the original face before you were born. And that would be what I would, I mean, it might be a bit too deep for a random person not introduced to Eastern spirituality, but you could probably inquire what, you could ask them, have you ever thought about who you are beyond all of these, this social construct that has become your sense of persona? Okay. Let's have a look. Alex Yim, high intensity interval way to lose weight. Good point. Christopher, amazing. I'll look for those books. Thank you, Sarah. Love it. Do you practice martial arts? Practice Qigong? Used to practice Tai Chi Chuan. Not so much anymore. Have practiced a lot of Hatha yoga. I practice a lot of traditions, but there's only so much time in the day, Christopher. To be honest with you, there's only so much time in the day. Like I mentioned earlier in the stream, when I was learning Qigong, Tai Chi Chuan, there has to be a real, especially when I go to the deeper elements of those practices, you have to spend a lot of time on those. And the one that appealed to me most was Qigong, and usually just the Bada Jin, the eight brocades, the 8 movements. And there are other methods, but I stick mainly to Zazen and incorporate Qigong. And depending on, my mood, I might practice Hatha yoga or something along those lines. Let's have a look here. Ken Wu, can you talk about the original face in Zen Buddhism? I don't know. I just did. Wait, we'll get through this. I'll come back to it, my friend. There's a very good translation of Tao Te Ching available by Derek Lin. Daniel, yes, Dan the Man Raymond. I know. Love Derek. Actually been in contact with Derek a lot in the last 5 years. And last time I spoke to him, 5-6 months ago, he's kind of taken a step back a little bit from teaching and so forth and so on. Maybe, being a little bit older and whatnot, you can't fault him for that, I guess. I don't know the reason particularly there. Captain Sanchez, awakening to non-dualism, to who we really are. Yes, well said. Love it. Hi, I'm back. Kumar. There you go. Sri Lanka back in the house. I love the ability to talk to all you guys. Hey, just amazing. It's a privilege, to be honest with you. Like, that I can do this, you have no idea. You have no idea. Like, it just fills me up with a lot of happiness, a lot of joy, and just a sweet contentment of just to be able to communicate with you guys. And yeah, I mean, I don't want to get all emotional and whatnot. Christopher, The Way of Zhuangju. The Way of Zhuangzi, yeah, by Thomas Merton. Love it, in the bookshelf over there. Thomas Merton. What can you say? What can you say? I don't know if you know this. Thomas Merton actually died in Bangkok. A power line broke and he was electrocuted. Tragic, really tragic ending. But Thomas Merton was one of those Christian mystics that really got Eastern mysticism. He really got it, and you see that in The Way of Zhuangzi. When I was reading the Zhuangzi, and when I was younger, and like when you're reading the Zhuangzi, because it's a parody, right? And so if your mind is too solidified and you're riddled with ethics and morality, you're not going to get the Zhuangzi. So, not that I was, but I came from a Western background, right? So one of the books I got in tandem with Burton Watson's translation of the Zhuangzi was Thomas Merton's The Way of Zhuangzi. And man, did it help. Did it help. Thomas Merton, what an amazing, amazing being. And I highly recommend any of his books, not just the ones to do with Eastern spirituality. Mosh, the Tao talks about letting go and going with the flow. How do you differentiate that from fatalism? Good question. Differentiate in the sense that fatalism, a lot of things that encompass fatalism is like there's no belief in anything higher, to be honest with you. It's just like you just go guns a-blazing in life and you just, do what you will and could care less about whatever, But Taoism is kind of like you are like a tuning fork, right? You are tuning yourself to that higher resonance. I don't want to, when we talk about the Tao, it's always hard to talk about the Tao in logical terms, but you're trying to tune yourself to it. You're trying to align with that. And what happens is when you let go, so when you let the river's power become your power, which is virtue, that signals to you that there's something else going on here. There's a higher power that's running the show. And our, petty little personal will, is actually not in control of our lives. So that's how we differentiate between fatalism and Taoism. Fatalism could care less about anything like that. They just go guns a-blazing and what will be, right? And so it's actually really easy to understand, Mosh, when you explain it the way I explained it. So WM, is it really in Japanese culture, Zen Buddhism, there's one believes that every person have 3 masks for society, family, yourself? Not just in Zen Buddhism, it's also in, people talk about this in hypnosis. Actually, I have a friend who studied a lot in hypnotherapy, and they talk about 15 masks. 15 masks. So you have one mask for your friends, one mask for your spouse, one mask for society, one mask for your job, one mask for the milkman, you name it. There's a million. Now, having particular masks beneficial? It can be beneficial for social cohesion and just for having a stable environment, stable society. Your job, especially if you're interested in Taoism, is understanding that all of those roles are played. Now you come into that, like what I said earlier, through the Zhuangzi. You understand genuine pretending, but you need to come into contact with the zero perspective. That zero perspective. If you don't come in contact with that zero perspective, you're going to be fooled by the mask. You're going to be fooled by the role that you're playing. You're going to think that Jason is everything. Like I'll think that, Jason is everything. There's nothing else. Like just Jason doing this YouTube thing and writing books, and that's the be all and end all. That would be that's a state of hypnosis. You definitely don't want to fall into that. Aaron, have you considered being a teacher on Insight Timer app? I avoid a lot of social media and it's easy to donate through the app is free. I don't really know what Insight Timer is. Maybe you'll have to enlighten me. I'm not very good with apps and that because I don't have a smartphone. I have a Patreon if you want to donate, and I also have a PayPal. You can see in a link in the description. And I mean, if you're interested, you can. There's donations through the chat too, but not that I'm interested in any of that. But if you feel free to donate, it's up to you. And any small donation is much appreciated. Do you have your books on audio recordings? Yes, I do. I have Effortless Living. You can find is an audio book. You can find it on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles. Anyway, you can find it online. Just Google Effortless Living, and you will see my audiobook. You will see the three versions. You'll see the Kindle, the audiobook, the paperback. Now, I don't recommend recording an audiobook. One of the toughest things I've ever had to do. I don't know if you guys have ever read an entire book aloud. It can take a lot of time. There's a lot of stuff ups when you read a book aloud. Even though you know your content and stuff, this and that, when you're reading and you're just reading, you're trying to be natural, sometimes it can come off a little unnatural. Christopher, my TV is talking to me. It's a trip. Yes, I would say that is a trip. What does Christopher? What does Susanta say? What do we got here? We got a bunch of ones. Jeez, I'm out of sync here. Daniel, we have a mutual friend in Derek. Then also Hua Qing Ni is my mentor's father. Wow, that's awesome. Dan, that's awesome. I mean, Watching Ni, great teacher. He's a great teacher and many good books. Actually, like you probably noticed, I did that sacred word on the reincarnation in Taoism, where I did the Hua Hu Qing, and so the later teachings of Zhuangzi and Hua Qing Ni's translation is actually my favorite. There's a few other ones I like, but that one particularly. Joe Shu, what are your thoughts on indigenous shamanic philosophies? Love them. Do you see any truth in them? Yes, love it. What about Eastern indigenous shamanic philosophies? Love them. Not like Taoism, Buddhism, etc. Love it. I love all older cultures, actually, and that may be some sort of personal bias, but I love older cultures, learning from older cultures. And actually, that's what attracted me a lot to Hinduism when I was younger, because it's the oldest enduring culture in the world. Now, enduring, you know what I mean? Like, not saying it's the oldest culture in the world, but it's the longest enduring culture. And so, because it's from long time ago, it's great to get in contact with that, because you notice a lot of the indigenous shamanic roots in a lot of those cultures, you know, particularly with the sadhus and particularly with the yogis and so forth and so on. Thomas Merton joined the greater consciousness. Christopher, no doubt about it. So our only way to interfacing with the Tao is between control and non-control. Isn't this dualism? That's up to you to decide, really. You're making the dissection, you're splitting hairs where you're saying it's either dualism or non-dualism. You have to then first imply that you have control and that your free will is complete. You're making that assumption, right? So from the Eastern perspective, they don't make that assumption. They don't make the assumption that you are in control. If you know Ramana Maharshi, one of the great quotes, the letter he gave to his mum when his mum was pleading him to speak, he said, what will happen will happen. Try as you may to change it. And what will not happen will not happen. Do what you may to try and make it happen. Something along those lines. I just butchered Ramana's quote. But that's what we're technically dealing with in Eastern spirituality. So it's not a dualism. It's only a dualism if you think that you are in control of your life. You see? So it's a subjective viewpoint. You're again making a subjective decision on whether it's dual or non-dual. So Santa, you had come Sri Lanka. I plan to. Actually, you know this damn pandemic. This damn pandemic. Let me condemn it. This stupid pandemic. In October, which is slipping through my fingers. The plan was Guyang and I were moving back to Asia, but the first place we were going to go to was Sri Lanka. And well, the plan was to get a house, set up a studio for the podcast and so forth, so on, blah, 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 blah. And, that ain't happening. So Susanta, yes, we do plan to come to Sri Lanka. The decisions for the future next year, hopefully, if they open the borders, let's all, hope and pray. It's either going to be between Sri Lanka, India, Nepal, Thailand. I've never lived in Sri Lanka, but I've lived in India, Nepal, and Thailand. You can say it's easier for me to go into those three. Sri Lanka, not so much because I don't know enough. I mean, I know enough. But about, renting a house and so forth and so on. What do we got here? Let's have a look here. Fatalism is the cork being carried down a river. Uwe is realizing you are the river. Christopher, touche. Give that man a glass of champagne. Mosh, good answer too. Thank you, my friend. Thank you for the appreciation. Christopher, whatever mask you wear, as long as you wear it within 6 feet of someone else. Oh, I love it. You don't want everyone to get rid of humor, people. The way the world is now, people are trying to destroy humor. You don't want to do that. You don't want to fall into this, this sad form of political correctness in the world that is very un-Eastern spiritual. If you want to be human, having humor, being at ease and being a bit light about life is nothing wrong with it. Captain Sanchez, do you ever feel as though your perspective have changed from your earlier published content? Sometimes, yeah, sometimes for sure. Not a lot, not a great deal, but the ground, especially from the science and practice of humility to enlightenment now, that was the greatest change. That was the night and day change between those two books. But from writing science and practice of humility to 6 years earlier than that, when I was first time living in India, again, a night and day difference. There's a few ways to look at this, Captain Sanchez. The thing is that they say that if you never contradict yourself, you're never learning, right? So contradiction in some sense is not a bad thing. It depends on, if you become a moral hypocrite and you start making absolutes about life. That's the problem. That can be problematic for people, right? If you're making absolutes about life and you're not So what I'm trying to say is that, yes, it has changed and should always change. Your perspective should always change too, in some sense. But there are some tenets and some principles, especially with Eastern philosophy and spirituality, that will always hold true and ring true. Yeah. So, Daniel Raymond, Taoism's moral compass is within nature, not moral and ethics. Correct, Jason? Give that man a red wine right now. Well said, Dan. Well said. Spot on. And I've made a few videos on that. You probably know that, Dan, is that the moral compass in Taoism is a natural moral compass. It's not based on human assumptions. It's not based on a culture's ethics, a society's ethics, a person's ethics, right? So when people ask me, hey, Jason, does Taoism equate to right-wing, left-wing, Marxism, communism, democracy? And I say none. It's opposed to all of those because they're all trying to set up their own form of ethics. They're all trying to set up their own form of morality that is an external imposition on the person. It's imposed on the individual, no matter whether the individual wants to agree with it or not. Now, we deal with this. We actually have to deal with this also on a subtle level because in the West, a lot of people don't know this. And this is where a lot of people have a problem with Eastern spirituality, is that even atheists have been indoctrinated with a Christian cognitive style. Now, that's not Christianity's fault. It's just how the West has evolved through Europe. And so a lot of atheists, they get the shits with that because they don't like want to admit that, but their cognitive style and the way that they see things, their sense of morality is in some sense shaped by Christianity. And Taoism's is shaped by nature, as you said, Dan. And yes, it is correct. again, we have to look at the Zhuangzi, right? We look at the great master Zhuangzi, and we look at the idea of Qing, which is a species-specific essence within all of us. Now, that species-specific essence, Zhuangzi says, is a flaw. It's a flaw. Now, what this essence is within us is we can discern between this and that. So we can discern then between what we feel is right and wrong subjectively or socially or culturally. But does that make it right and wrong, really? You see? Does it make it right or wrong? Or does it make it right or wrong according to the religion, the culture, society, or your own personal beliefs and agendas? Taoism is about pulling that and stripping that all away and leaving what is bare. Like Zhuangzi says, the unhewn wood. Stick to the unhewn wood and don't engage in like Confucian self-cultivation and the carving and mentality. Love the question, Dan. John C., the man in the house. While I found some concepts of Stoicism similar to thoughts on Taoism, I found Stoic philosophy a little dark. Have you compared the two philosophies? Yes, I have. A lot of people actually relate. They don't particularly relate Stoicism to Taoism. They relate it a lot of the time to Buddhism, some way. Maybe because of the morality in Buddhism. I think that the problem is, I don't have a problem with Stoicism, but it's not my forte. But I've studied enough of it to know that if you are individually minded and you're a go-getter and you have things that you want to achieve in the world, Stoicism is going to help you. There's no doubt about it, because it can sharpen your perspective of life. It can sharpen your effort, your concentration, the things that you want to achieve. You can do all of that. Eastern spirituality does that too, but it does it in a roundabout way, right? It's not so clear cut, and Eastern spirituality is not individualistic. So that's one of the differences between Stoicism and any of those, like Taoism, Buddhism, Hinduism, when they compare them, because one's coming from an individualistic cognition, the other one's coming from, all the rest are coming from a holistic cognition. So it's I can see why you say dark, you know what I mean? I can see why you say it, because it doesn't really give you, well, it's based on materialism, right? It's a material perspective. It's, get things done. And I mean, I'm not saying that Meditations by Marcus Aurelius isn't a great book, and these sorts of books aren't great, but I studied Stoicism a long time ago, and I enjoyed it, but it just wasn't for me, right? It wasn't for me. And probably not as for you too, John. Wow, wait, look at this. You guys are on fire. I love it. I love it. All right. Mahenda Rao Katakam. All right. What are your thoughts on any advantages in not committing to any relationship or marriage and just focusing on philosophy, spirituality? Interesting question. It's horses for courses. Horses for courses, my friend. Like I said, because Eastern spirituality originally was not about making sort of any absolutes. But in saying that, if you want to be a sadhu, a yogi, and you want to follow that tradition to its nth degree, then man or woman, probably best in some sense, maybe not to be in a relationship, especially if the other person is not interested in that path, particularly, especially if we're looking at a sadhu or yogi, they're disconnecting themselves physically also from society. So it's probably not best to have a relationship. I don't know how that would quite work, but advantages, disadvantages, it's up to you. See, my relationship with Guy Young has always been on the same page. I mean, we've never faltered in our progress within our own spiritual study and spiritual path. And I mean, she jokingly calls me her Guruji, and that sometimes I don't like that sort of stuff, but it's only tongue in cheek. But we've never really strayed off the path, and we're always, motivating each other to learn something new, or not learn something new, but get engaged with a certain text and try certain forms of meditation and so forth and so on. So, we have fun in life, to be honest with you. So I think that if you can have a relationship where you're both on the same page, especially spiritually, and you can just enjoy life and have fun and not take it too seriously, I don't see how that's going to be is going to not benefit your spiritual path. It might only enhance your spiritual path. So in saying that, when you say focusing on philosophy and spirituality, you can focus on philosophy and spirituality, and that's what Guy Young and I do. We focus on that. But sure, we like to go out for a walk, and we like to, enjoy a good documentary, or enjoy a good meal out together, or something like that. Just like a normal person, superhuman. So yes. Sarah, have you ever studied a little Jainism, and how do you compare to Taoism? I actually mentioned this earlier, Sarah. Maybe you weren't here, but yes, I have studied a lot of Jainism. I love it. I really do. I love it just because it's different. It's one of those Indic paths that, yes, of course, there's a similar tenets, right? It's one of the dharmic paths, but it can be very strict, right? It can be very strict. So you have especially with vegetarianism and like wearing mouth coverings and so forth and so on, and sweeping so you don't kill any insects and so forth and so on. Love it. Love the philosophy. I've been to places like, especially, I don't know if you know Puri in Odisha in India. Puri has a big community of Jains, and a while ago, let's say 6 years ago, Guy Young and I spent a lot of time there. We were visiting the Sri Yukteswar ashram a lot. I was going to the ashram. I was actually visiting the ashram a lot because I was thinking about taking people there on a meditation retreat and so forth and so on. But unfortunately, the Yukteswar ashram has become a bit run down, though it's still got its charm. It's still got its charm. But in going to Puri for that, I met a lot of Jains and lovely people. Love them. Love Jainism. Captain Sanchez, yo, I really like that. What will happen, and what won't. 100%. Awaken enlightenment. Wow. Now we're getting back there. We're getting back to some of the original subscribers here. Congrats on 30,000 subs, Jason. Thank you for being awesome, and you as well, my friend. Much appreciation over the years, and only love for you. Joshu, what do you focus on more in Eastern philosophies? Is it the wisdom or metaphysics or practices, etc.? All of them all together. Again, it's like what I said. It's a particular thing on whatever whatever I feel I want to pursue in that moment. I'm like anyone, right? It's whatever I'm attracted to in that moment. That's what I will look at. Like, for example, like let me get Fasting the Mind, right? So Fasting the Mind, right? This book was an accumulation of a lot of, obviously of my own personal meditation practices, but this is an accumulation of Taoist philosophy and Buddhist practices, right? So I'm often studying a lot of everything, really, a lot of everything. And I look, you have to have a frame of reference when you study, when you want to even go into meditation. And I tell people this all the time. Don't just start meditation if you don't have a frame of reference. Now, what do I mean by a frame of reference? I mean about having a philosophical grounding or scaffolding so you can understand the experiences and the depth of being that you're about to go into. If you become a long-term meditator, you need a scaffolding. A lot of New Age people, New Age teachers just wax lyrical and tell people about Kundalini yoga, and they have no frame of reference about even what Kundalini is, which is kind of strange, right? So I would say when you say the wisdom, metaphysics, or practices, learn all of it. Learn all of it in tandem. For example, like if you want to read about Advaita Vedanta, like I would say, why don't you get yourself a copy of the Mandukya Upanishad with the Gaudapada Kataka, and get yourself a copy of Be As You Are by Ramana Maharishi. Now, when you have both of those copies, Ramana is teaching self-inquiry, teaching you a deep spiritual meditative practice. But when you read the Mandukya Upanishad, Shankara and Gaudapada are giving you a scaffolding of the actual philosophy of Advaita Vedanta and how you understand these different states of being. So how you understand the jiva, the psychosomatic organism, which we are in this body, but also the Atman, which is connected to all of us, which is within us and within everything else, which is the Brahman. But you need to understand these levels in some sense, intellectually. And so that gives you a scaffolding to go deeper into your practice. So Santa, please show me your recent book. I don't know which one you mean. Do you mean this one? I mean, this is a bit of a nightmare. Like, the worst thing about when you write books, there's just always more. So when you don't hear from your publisher for a while, and then your gears grind a little bit, and you're like, you know what, I can add a little bit more, and then it just becomes more. And then next one is 10,000 words more, and you're just like, wow, on the grind too much. Anyway, Amitabha, love it, puppet. Elisa, I just found you a few days ago. What do we got there? Wow, wait, it's hard to keep up with. You guys are going crazy. I love it. I just found you a few days ago, and I'm enjoying your work very much. What parts of Asia do you feel are best to live in if one wishes to live near other Taoist practitioners? Obviously, China, but living in China sometimes can be a problem. Problem with China, especially with Taoism, is it's kind of like yoga in India. You get a mix of authentic teachers and teachers that are there for commercial reasons and spout off their own wacky philosophies about Taoism and so forth and so on. I would say Thailand's a great place. There's a lot of people, especially in the north, that are interested in Taoism, and not just foreigners, but also Thais as well. So if you want to be close, I've lived 5 years in Chiang Mai, and so I would say definitely Chiang Mai or Pai, even further north. What you get there is you kind of get a Taoist way of life as well. The lifestyle and the way people live is Taoist. It's really fun. Actually, I would say if you want to get in touch with like just living Wu Wei, so just living Wu Wei, I would recommend Tiruvannamalai in southern India to live. You can rent a house outside of Tiruvannamalai for like $150. Let me change that. $140 a month. So it's very cheap, and you can get a whole house. And so for a whole month, and obviously food's cheap, this and that. Now I know that that's a Shaiva and Advaita Vedanta area, but you got to remember the Shaiva tradition, the Pashuputta tradition is very, very close to Taoism. Not close in the so-called spiritual practices, but you got to remember Taoism first and foremost is a philosophy and a way of life. It's not just Tai Chi Chuan, Qigong. It's not just about practicing those practices. It's a lot more than that. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. Along the continuum of you doing everything opposed to everything being done to you, aren't we always in flux between these absolutes? Let me come back to that. Sarah, did Buddha in true sense reject Vedas? That's hard to really explain. I mean, I don't really know. We have to remember Siddhartha Gautama, right? The man, if we look at it, if we take Siddhartha Gautama as a historical figure, he was first and foremost a Hindu, right? So he practiced Hindu asceticism for a long, long time. And well, 6 years to be specific, and practiced it to his nth degree. So to say that he rejected the Vedas, he actually was in harmony with the Vedas for a long, long time. It was just he came to a certain level of awakening which in some sense conflicts with the ethos of the Vedas, so to speak. It's not so much that he rejected it, altogether. It was just that it was kind of a turning away from the Vedas, so to speak, and an understanding that to be awake in some sense, especially from Siddhartha Gautama's perspective, is not what the Vedas explain. Even though when you read the Upanishads and you read the Nikayas, you probably know this, Sarah, there's a lot of similarities, right? But there's a lot of differences as well. Christopher, thanks, Jay. I'm having a beer. What kind of drink do you like when you imbibe? Enjoy your beer. What beer are you having, Chris? if I'm having a good dinner or relaxing, good glass of red or a beer, don't drink much anymore. I'm too busy for that. But if I have an opportunity, like for example, if I go to an island in Thailand, which I haven't done for 8 years, sounds a long time. If I'm sitting on a beautiful white beach, there's nothing better than, having a bottle of beer and just kind of like absorbing that environment. Now, a lot of people have, they think, oh, spiritual people can't have alcohol and so forth and so on. You've obviously never been around Zen masters. I've been on Zen retreat before, intense retreat, where the master will just have a beer at the end of the retreat. One beer, mind you. You don't want to get crazy and get moral and everything like that. Remember, the Eastern spiritual path is about not being overly moral, even though there are morals in some traditions. But we've got to get out of that mindset about saying, oh, he said, she said, and, blah, blah, blah. You've got to get out of that sort of mindset. But yes, if I imbibe, I enjoy a beer on a beach or having a glass of red with my wife. Were your parents supportive to your spiritual interests? Sarah, I'll tell you a story, right? When I was going through this process, both of my parents died. Now, you don't have to feel sorry about that. You don't have to say sorry or anything like that. They died when I was pretty young. So I was 23 when my mother died. She died of breast cancer. And my father died when I was 26. And he died of throat cancer. Now, the thing is, sometimes I get upset when I talk about my parents, but I don't feel upset at the moment because I'm just explaining it to you. But the thing is between what happened, right? When mum had breast cancer, I left home when I was 19. That's when she kind of recovered from breast cancer the first time. And then 4 years later, the cancer came back. Dad, loved her immensely, and he just couldn't live without her. Often my two brothers and sister, we often say that the grief killed him, the grief gave him cancer. And, I believe a lot in that. So they were not privy to a lot of my spiritual interests at that time. They always knew I was I was the different sibling, but they, and my mum really, she really supported me being, a bit of an oddball, but so that, just to answer your question, yes, they were not, they have not been alive for a lot of this, so Lahiru, what would Taoism instruct us to do if you're trying to get rid of addictions like gaming and social media? Wow, that's a really interesting question. I would say come back to your nature. Try and incorporate a meditative practice first and foremost, and realize that if it's an addiction, especially if it's like gaming or social media, it's a behavioral addiction. It's not a substance addiction. See, the thing is, the differences between the substance addiction and a behavioral addiction is substance addictions are obviously way harder to kick. So if you have a drug addiction or you suffer from alcoholism, this is going to be difficult to kick. But gaming and social media are behavioral addictions. And so Taoism, what does Taoism teach you? Taoism teaches you that you are no greater than an ant in reality, even though you can, you have more of an ability to express the Tao through you than maybe an ant, right? But there is no form of specialness in Taoism. So why I'm saying that is because once you get out of that sort of individualistic thinking and you get away from what that certain persona you are is attracted to, then those sort of behavioral patterns will begin to change. And you may not want to be on social media much anymore, or you may not want to game as much. So it's more so about observing yourself, self-observation, and understanding your behavioral patterns, and understanding that in social media, there are algorithms that are designed to tap into your behavioral weaknesses, right? So we look at positive reinforcement or social approval. These are the two things that social media companies prey on. They prey on positive positive reinforcement and social approval. These are two evolutionary behaviors that we evolved to have because it was beneficial within community, right? But when you follow a spiritual practice, you even have to change those behaviors. So if you don't have an attraction for likes and retweets and what's recommended on the YouTube feed, then if you keep distancing yourself from that, this will change certain addictions and certain behaviors. But it's up to you. It's about getting back in touch with yourself, about meditating more, understanding the way that those behaviors are, in some sense, hijacking your awareness. NWC, should I be vegetarian? What's your opinion based on your beliefs? You don't have to be vegetarian. Again, no absolutes. No absolutes. There are certain people who can't be vegetarian. There's certain people who can't eat meat. You know, what do you say about that? There's certain constitutions, even in Ayurveda, right, where you have 3 constitutions. You have Pitta, Kapha, Vata. And when you study Ayurveda, they actually don't have a problem with vegetarianism. A problem with, eating meat. We're all the same, right? The problem with eating meat in the world is not so much the meat itself. It's about the way that we're, the industrial farming and so forth and so on that we would all disagree with. It's not very humane. What do we do about that? Well, that's going to happen collectively. We will change our habits and so forth and so on. I've been both. I've been vegetarian for a long time, and I've also ate meat. What's better? I like a low carb diet. I run better on that. It helps me write more and helps me create more content. But when I'm on a strict side, I'll be like, for example, I'll just go full vegan, right? And I won't have no more healthy fats. But this is a larger discussion, really, when we talk about vegetarianism, because you got to remember the reason why we have our brains this size and we can do what we do now was because we ate a lot of animal fat as we evolved. So that's another discussion, probably not suited to this. NWC says, I don't want to eat any souls. Yeah, I hear. And if you don't, that's great. Mosh Del Rey, what do we got here? All right, let's, wow, we got a lot. Mosh Del Rey, what do you think is the main underlying principle of all Eastern philosophy that sets it apart from the West? Understanding that the persona is not real. It's an illusion. So you will not be saved. You are not going to experience some sort of state of nirvana. What is beyond you is where that all is. Not that beyond you, you'll get saved, but nirvana and everything is beyond the persona. That's the characteristic. One of the, well, there's many, but that's one of the main ones where you got to get beyond that. And you got to understand that your persona itself is an illusion and in a sense empty. Okay. Christopher Chillin, could you do these Q&As once a month? Tell me, guys, do you want this Q&A once a month? I can do it once a month, no problem. I talked about it actually on Facebook, and some people wrote to me privately and said yes, they would like. Guys, tell me if you would like this once a month. I would love to talk to you guys once a month. Art in the house, old friend. Hi, Jason. I am a doctor and got burnt out from 10 years of working very fast-paced. I took a long break and am working on improving my health. And reading your book, Fasting the Mind, the System, not helpful. I love it. Well, that's good news for you, Art. Great news. Good to see you're out of sometimes the stresses of working environment, yeah? Christopher again. Well, I read Fasting the Mind when I'm snacking. Balance. Yes, love it. Art. The American working system doesn't help. I'm working on setting strong boundaries if I return to healthcare. That's a very wise, very, very wise idea. Christopher Allen, Watson, Jason Gregory videos. Art. Good. Art. Congrats on 30,000. Love it. Sun Santa, you are a very humble person. How is you start every single morning? Meditation. Well, let's be honest. Wash my face, brush my teeth, have a couple of drinks of water, then meditate. And then usually I'll do a little bit of cardio exercise. I used to do a little bit of weight exercise. And I've had, becoming 40 for whatever reason, I've had a few soft tissue injuries, especially in my shoulders, which is really annoying when I want to practice Qigong. And forget about hatha yoga with this shoulder injuries. Can't happen. Stefan, oh yeah. Hello, you are more recently talk about social warriors and that not really being an Eastern perspective of action. How do you reconcile the action of force, ample, Gandhi, Thich Nhat Hanh, Sadhguru? Depends on what you mean by that. You know what I mean? Like those guys weren't. I don't know if you've noticed, though, that social justice warriors can be very unrealistic and not listening and very violent in the streets and have a particular agenda that they want to wield on others. And they have an opinion, and I know this because I know a lot of them, that they feel that the average Joe is an idiot. Now, I always sympathize with the ordinary people. I think it's a little bit embarrassing to think you're a little bit above other people, like, because we're all human. I think it's, it's just me. It's a little bit cringe. And so the difference there is that Gandhi, Thich Nhat Hanh, Sadhguru, don't know so much about Sadhguru being a social justice warrior, but a little bit. There are particular things that they stood for, but they never wanted people to. They didn't want to incite violence, and they didn't want people to have unintelligible views, which a lot of social justice warriors do. Their unintelligible views are built often on woke ideology and on an idea that political correctness is natural, and it is not natural. Humans are malleable, and we make mistakes, and we should be forgiven. That's simple. That's human. And if you don't operate from that place, then you can't be related to Eastern spirituality. You can't be in the street, being violent, causing trouble, speaking badly about ordinary people in general, and inciting all sorts of new ways of policing thought, which actually runs counter to what the West value when in the West people value freedom of speech, democracy, and a lot of those social justice warriors and woke ideology is actually eroding those. And we don't have to get into that because this is not a political channel. Looking wonderful, Jason. Ting, ting, shiny. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Christopher, not being overly moral. Something to remember. Foster's. Wowee. JK. Newcastle Brown Ale. And Sam Adams. Oktoberfest. Lovely selection. Ha. Yetzahara. Good night. Good night, my friend. Thanks for being with me. Christopher, I tried to get my elderly parents to read 365 Tao and to practice some Tai Chi for health. What do you recommend to help my parents age gracefully, physically, and spiritually? Actually, Tai Chi is actually really good especially for older people. I mean, I know that it's beneficial to have started the practice a lot younger, but I'd also recommend the Badawa Jin, the 8 movements in Qigong. I would, because that's such a simple, the simple movements. But I think that would definitely help your parents age gracefully, physically and spiritually. I want them happy as well as they get older. Yes, me too. Sarah, yes, it's fun. Love it. Yes. Art says yes. You guys are awesome. Dart Frog, yes. Super. NWC, yes. Do more than one a month. Wow, I guess I could do once a month. Yes, I agree. I love you guys. Alex, Kundalini feels like a feminine sexual energy, even though I'm a male. That gives us lust for life. It's not pervy in any way. It's very pure sexual energy, sacred in a way. Well, that's part of the actual the energy that's dormant in your coccyx, down in the what we'd call the Muladhara chakra, down in that area. And so that energy is wound up. It's the Ida and Pingala, the feminine, masculine energy. But when the Kundalini, according to the text, when the Kundalini rises, it's not just a feminine energy. A lot of people assume that, but it's both energies that rise. And so there's the Sushumna channel, and that gives you that state of ecstasy and this and that. But mind you, and like I've said in a lot of my books, a Kundalini experience is not enlightenment. It's a glimpse. It's like having a psychedelic experience. They're not the same, but I'm making a comparison here to illustrate something, that Kundalini experience is just it's an experience, right? So when you're talking about Eastern spirituality, the depth of Eastern spirituality is the non-experiential. How do we get to that place? How do we abide in that place? Maybe Kundalini experiences may help, but they're usually just markers of some sort of progress within your spiritual practice. A lot of people can over-sensationalize Kundalini experiences and so forth and so on. Yes, Q&A once a month. Mosh, I love it. Thank you. Robo Guy, yes, please, regular Q&As. Love it. Robo Guy, welcome. Mark Salazar, g'day, mate. Oh, mate, love you. Always long-time supporter. I always like seeing long-time supporters of the channel. Brian Kelly, hello, my friend. Glad to catch up with this conversation. Very interspersed. Brian, you've been around for a long time, brother. Love you. Art, I love you too. So let's go back up and have a look at some of the questions. Joshu said, they say wisdom comes from nothing. Can you please explain this? I'm having trouble comprehending this. Again, it depends on what you mean by wisdom. See, we make too many absolutes about terminology and words. So people would say wisdom, when they say wisdom comes from nothing, they're probably talking about when you come back in contact with that stillness within you, where you understand everything in its pure nature as one. Like the arising of it's like what Alan Watts once said, what we are after is a sense of unity. And what meditation and spiritual practice and Eastern philosophies are guiding us towards is a sense of unity. It's a felt experience we have that makes us experience reality in a non-dual manner. And so that's what they would be saying. You're probably thinking about wisdom from books, right? But I also don't want to demean that. A lot of people, they jump on their high horse. This has become like a new age temperament where someone may have said that, someone may have misinterpreted or quoted Lao Tzu and said, oh, Lao Tzu said, wisdom comes from unlearning and so forth and so on. If you understand the Chinese proper translation, he's not talking about like book learning and so forth and so on. He's talking about the unlearning of socialization and culture and everything that warps your nature. Texts are often pointing to that reality of coming back in contact with that reality. So I would say there's nothing wrong with books. And if you're talking about wisdom through books, and if someone's saying to you, you shouldn't read books because, you can't get wisdom in that way, just, kindly depart the conversation, go back to reading your book. John C., the man in the house. Many Eastern spiritual leaders have emphasized repeating mantras in Eastern words. If you say the same thing in German or English, does it really make a difference? A Sanskritist would say yes, because Sanskrit has a certain vibrational quality to it. And this has been tested. There are other languages like this as well, but Sanskrit is one of them. So it has a particular vibratory quality to it. Now, does that mean English or German don't? I don't know enough about that, John. But I would say that if you understand the deep meaning of it and it's something that really touches your heart, then I would say yes. I mean, no, it doesn't matter. Like the meaning is what's important for you, right? But even better, right? You can compensate for both, right? If you understand the meaning in Sanskrit in your own language, in German or English or whatever, then why not chant it in Sanskrit? I chant a few regular mantras. I chant like Om Namah Shivaya is one I try to practice daily, not all the time, obviously, but just paying respect to the all, the world, and everything. And I also love, just because of I spent a lot of time in Bodh Gaya under the Bodhi tree, and the 3 jewels of Buddhism I really love it. I love that mantra, and it's kind of just something dear to my heart that I actually just chant just because I enjoy it, So I would say that there's a difference, but we're talking about vibrational qualities as opposed to meaning. Where if you chant it in Sanskrit or Pali or whatever language that is the traditional language, but particularly if it's Sanskrit or Pali, then it's better to chant it in that language but understand the meaning, because then you're kind of taking care of both worlds, so to speak. Sarah, hope you will do these more often. Thank you, Sarah. Like I said, I could set this up once a month. There's no problem. I mean, I love talking to you guys. I enjoy it. It warms my heart. Like I said on Facebook today, warms my heart to speak to you guys and just love it. Let's have a look here. Brian again. Jason, you're the man. You're the man, brother. You are the man. Thank you. Eccles 108. Love your channel. Have you ever explored Eastern Orthodox Christianity or Eastern Christian mysticism? Yes, I have. And I did a long time ago. I like the Christian mystics, but I like more of the oddballs. Like I mentioned earlier, I like Thomas Merton. I really like Thomas Merton. I know he's more of a modern. I shouldn't say modern. He's departed this world now, but he had something about him that was different to other contemporary Christian mystics and Christians in general. But I must say to you, I haven't studied it for a long, long time and would not like to talk too much about it because I don't want to butcher it. Susanta, yes, once a month. How do you prepare your mind for meditation? I have a video on meditation, Susanta, which I would like you to go and watch. Find it in my list. And I go into, I call it How to Meditate Properly. That obviously annoys a lot of trolls and people who get emotional about YouTube titles, which is just all pure semantics. But how I prepare is taking care of the night before. So if you're up, say for example, if you're up really late and you are, eating greasy food or watching a lot of things on Netflix or scrolling the social media feed, then you are going to have a terrible sleep. Your mind's going to be agitated and you're not taking care of the parasympathetic nervous system. Now, I don't know if you know this, there's two nervous systems we need to think about in the autonomic nervous system, two branches. So the sympathetic nervous system, which is activated when we are engaged in activity, and then the parasympathetic nervous system, which we activate with deep rest. And when I say deep rest here, I don't mean just sitting on the computer and scrolling your Twitter feed or watching something on Netflix. That's still a sympathetic nervous system. So I try to, sometimes I can't do it every day because I might have an interview that night or just something may have come up, right? And so, but in general, I try to take care of the night before, meaning I don't stay up too late watching a lot of these things. I don't watch a lot of screens at night. I read a book, and it's more about taking care of the following morning. And in doing that, you sleep better, you meditate deeply because your nervous system's not agitated. These are fundamentals actually in meditation that a lot of meditative teachers don't talk about. Some of them don't talk about, like for example, I'm friends with a lot of Thai monks, right? They don't talk about this in English because they don't really know the terminology. It's not their fault. They just don't know English. They talk about it in Thai. But that's very important. So you ought to remember that take care of your night before, which takes care of the morning after, right? The best time when we look at the yin and yang energies of a day, the best time for yang is around, let's say around 10 to 4 o'clock, where you can be intensely active and intensely, like, you can do things and you can achieve things, or you can go on a hike, you can, be a fool like me and write a book, or, you know what I mean? You do it all in this time period, maybe let's say 9. You could even start early at 9. Depends on when you wake up in the morning, So I mean 9 for the young activities, but in all that before period, like I like to wake up around 5 to 6. Then that's time for self-care, spiritual self-care. So get into a meditative practice, like I said, I like to practice Zazen and Qigong. This is a perfect morning routine for me, right? If I have a lot of time. If sometimes when you write a book, you don't have a lot of time because your mind is not in the right place. It's too in the book. But a good morning for me, and what makes my life shine, is wake up, Zazen first thing, Qigong, then go and do some exercise. And then if I feel like breakfast, I'll eat breakfast. Often I don't eat breakfast because I just have lunch. I often eat 2 meals a day, and that's often, and that's because I've spent a lot of time in monasteries, and I've been in monasteries where they only eat once a day. So that's a challenge, especially when you come from Western culture. But it happens. All right. You guys are on fire. I love it. I love it. Brian, yes, once a month would be great. You're the man. I told you. Joshu, they call Sanskrit the language of the gods. Yes. And for that reason, my friend, for that reason, the vibratory quality, it has a frequency about it. It's been tested, actually, all of this. Pali, too. Don't discount Pali. Don't discount Pali. A lot of people don't know about Pali. But Pali is an amazing language. And I actually love learning Pali. I mean, I love chanting Pali. Sorry, learning Pali. I love chanting Pali. Like when I'm in a Thai forest monastery, chanting Pali is just, one of the best. One of the best. Brian, sorry, Jesus. I meant very interesting. The man. Christopher, the Stoics say don't evangelize the teachings you learn, but show them how you change through your actions and productions. How do you recommend bringing people to Eastern wisdom? Example, or teach? That's a tough one because, to be honest, like if you're not interested in Eastern spirituality, then you're not going to get attracted by example, giving an example or teaching. It's just not going to happen. So I think you have to have, in general, you have to have an attraction for the traditions. It would be like someone saying to me, I want you to become Zoroastrian. I don't know enough about Zoroastrian, and I'm not interested in it. And I'm not saying it's a bad tradition or anything. I just don't know anything about it, and I'm not interested in it. It was never part of my interest. What was part of my interest was Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism. That's what drew me in, and that's what really grounded my life and taught me the great way. So how do I recommend bringing people to Eastern wisdom? I don't know, like just maybe recommend my channel. Recommend my channel. Tell them to have a look at my books or someone else that you like, an author you like, or someone like this, like, mention that to them, and like, for example, like, I have the Tao Te Ching always sitting around on the desk. If you mention like just to get this copy, especially the Jiafu Feng one, the Jane English one, if you get that copy, I think anyone with can understand little bits of that and will guide them in a different direction. I really do. Wow, that one. I liked if CN fan from Canada. IFC fan from Canada. Sorry, my friend, I'm pronouncing that right. Once the pandemic is over, will you resume your organized trips? I saw you used to take people to visit some countries, I believe. Yes, they will continue. And Guyang and I have actually been organizing 3. And I mentioned this actually on the channel in the community section a while back. I asked you guys, where would you particularly like to go? Because I've got 3 things, right? I've got 3 locations, 3 places. They're different in quality, right? So the first one was Bodh Gaya. Now, Bodh Gaya is where the Mahabodhi temple is and where the Bodhi tree is, where the historical Buddha became enlightened. It's one of the best places in the world to meditate, 100%. I've been in many places. This is unparalleled I shouldn't say unparalleled. I've been a bit over the top there, but it's one of the great places. And what I would say is that what I want to do is I want to have a 10-day retreat there. Now, what that retreat will entail is a lot of meditation under the Bodhi tree, but I'll also take you to a lot of the different monasteries in the area, because there's like the Tibetan monastery, there's the Japanese monastery, Korean, Thai, Bhutan, you name it. All of the Asian countries that have Buddhism. So And I just love it. I love it. And so this would be more of a meditative retreat, but it's a little bit kind of relaxed. But there will be many hours under the Bodhi tree, and obviously discussing Eastern spirituality. Now the second one would be a tour in Tamil Nadu in South India. That would be like a Shaiva tour, but it's more of a tour. So we would go to Tiruvannamalai. We would see the holy mountain of Arunachala. We would go to Madurai, the great temples in Madurai. We would go to Pondicherry, the Sri Aurobindo Ashram and Auroville. We would go to Mahabalipuram, and we would see the ancient Dravidian temples in South India. And then we would end up back in Chennai. So it'd be like a bit of a loop in Tamil Nadu. That would be more of a spiritual tour. And I've done that tour a few times with people, and they've loved it. And I mean, it breaks my heart to talk about Tamil Nadu. I absolutely love the state. The other one in the last retreat that I want you guys to think about is the Kathmandu Valley one. So this is in Nepal. And in Nepal, we would be visiting all of the great temples, both Buddhist and Hindu, in the Kathmandu Valley and on the edge of the Kathmandu Valley. I don't know. It's probably hard for you guys to understand what the Kathmandu Valley is, but Kathmandu, the city, is in a massive valley. On we're in the Himalayas here, and so personally, Kathmandu is my favorite city in the world. As for a city, I wouldn't say my favorite place in the world, but my favorite city, because there's just an energy about that city that you just never want to leave. I mean, that's the problem when I go to Kathmandu. I just never want to leave. My plan is always to go to Pokhara or other places in Nepal, and then I get to Kathmandu, and then the month slips away. There's the biggest Shiva statue in the Kathmandu Valley, the Tibetan. I don't know if you know Swami Bhumanath with the Buddha eyes on top of the temples, on top of a mountain. One of my favorite temples in the whole world. And also Buddhanath is another famous one. I could go on and on, but those three ones I want you to think about. So think about like Bodh Gaya for meditation retreat, and the other two are kind of like a mix of meditation and sort of tour. Okay. What do we got here? Brian, love it. Love you, Brian. What do you think of Anthony D. Mello awareness? Like he's like Thomas Merton. Don't really know enough about him. Sorry, brother. Joshu Eckhart Tolle, and are you looking to have him on your podcast as a guest? I like Eckhart. Not really looking to have him on a guest on the podcast. I enjoy him. What do I say? It's kind of like Eckhart's teachings is kind of like the westernization of Advaita Vedanta. Now, not in a negative way, right? They call this neo-Advaita. Mooji falls into this category too. There's a few teachers that fall into this category. Rupert Spira. Now, I enjoy their teachings. Don't get me wrong, but it is kind of minus the traditional cultural tenets of the tradition. That's why I prefer to listen to people like Swami Sarvapriyananda and the Vedanta Society in general, because there's it's a lineage. It's a Shankara lineage, and it's the teachings that it comes from Shankara, right? And so they're part of that lineage. They've been schooled in Vedanta, and so then there's just a different energy about it. It's not saying that Eckhart is, saying anything ridiculous. He's not. He's a good teacher, but it's just not what I vibe with, you could say. Alex Jim, maybe being born male, that side isn't as obvious as the feminine energy experience. My second Kundalini experience was at an ayahuasca ceremony. Okay. Suntanta, thank you for the answer for my question. Deeply your answer. Thank you deeply for being here. John C. the man. I have to check out and convert fundamentalists and political zealots on my amoral dropout Taoism as the only way. LOL. Loved your live stream and congrats on the 30,000. John, only love for you, brother. Only love for you. Thank you. Thank you. Christopher, thank you so much for the Q&A and answering questions. Hope you do once a month and mooch someone's Netflix and watch Avatar. Cheers, Guru Jason. Mooch. Maybe I will, brother. Thank you. Hey, Thank you for the love. Thank you for the love. I love it. You actually had some really great questions. Kept the comment section light and humorous. Thank you. Shivananda. Do you think all Hindu gods are essentially the same god, but with different avatars qualities? Well, if you understand the ethos of Sanatana Dharma, they all are. They're all part of Brahman, the ultimate reality. But the good thing about India is you kind of choose your own god, right? And different avatars and gods have different qualities. I mentioned the Trimurti before, right? I mentioned the Shiva, Vishnu, Brahma. So Brahma being the creative principle of the universe, Vishnu being the sustainer and the preserver, and Shiva being the destructive element of the universe. Now, for whatever reason, well, there's a lot of reasons for that, but most Hindus worship either Shiva, Vishnu, and not so much Brahma. But that Ishvara level, that principal god level, they are, in some sense, a representation of the ultimate reality, the greater reality, being that Brahman, right? So that's what they represent. So they do represent different qualities. And so when we look at Krishna, when we look at Ram, when we look at Sita, if you look at all of the great literature of Hinduism, they all represent different qualities. Even when you look at all of the ones to do with Shiva, like when you look at Parvati, Ganesha, Skanda, when you look at all of those different gods, then they have different qualities in relation to Shiva. So, Christopher, Avatar, The Last Airbender, not the Blue People movie. Yes, I know. I gotcha. I like the Blue People movie too. It's a long time ago. But I'm going to look at this one, The Last Airbender. Maybe I will mooch off someone's Netflix. All right, excellent job, super duper, guys, awesome. Any more questions, guys? I mean, I'm really it's so stoked to talk to you guys. What's this? Avatar has one of the best character arcs I've ever seen. True story. Thank you for your response. Is the idolatry condemned in the Old Testament actually something different from what is practiced in Hinduism, or was it something different? It's different in the sense that the idols aren't an idol for our creator God in Hinduism. They are for something that's like an ultimate reality, something beyond, even beyond God, so to speak. And like Easterners would say beyond God, right? So it's something beyond God. And so I would say that, yes, there is a difference, but it comes down to philosophical differences between the Old Testament and between the older Hindu texts. And we have to remember there are differences, right? For example, when people say, we've been talking about Avatar here a little bit. When people say, think of Avatar in Sanskrit, Westerners think of Christ or maybe Muhammad. They think of prophet figures, but that's not really what Avatar is. If you know Hinduism is built on a lot of a mischievous. They're not stereotypical superheroes. Let's put it that way. They're not stereotypical superheroes, and they are sometimes radical misfits. Rascals. It's different. Right? It's different. So you have to really understand those differences between the idolatry that's condemned in the Old Testament as opposed to Hinduism. The problem with, I would say, what the differences, some of the problems with idolatry in Hinduism from a jnana perspective, if we're talking about jnana yoga, a lot of idolatry is related to bhakti yoga, right? So you'll get particular yogis or sadhus who will have an idol their whole life. They may have a statue of Shiva or a statue of Ganesha, and they dress that up and they paint it, and they do that every day, and they feed it and everything, so that there's this whole spiritual practice behind it. But a jnani would look at that and say, He's still attached to an object of knowledge, right? So it's something that you can still visualize, something that you still have an object of knowledge about. The problem is we still have objects of knowledge within our mind as well. So Vedanta and Taoism and Buddhism go to even that depth, right? So in the Old Testament, they say idolatry in the sense of the physical, but they still have idols within their mind. They're still thinking in that sense. So there are differences, but you have to understand those differences. All right. Joshu, I definitely recommend it as well. WM, thank you for the Q&A, Jason. Looking forward to another. Got to go for now. Shanti, my friend. Well done, well done. Brian, love that about Hinduism. All roads lead to God. Like a river to the ocean, all the deities are just one signpost to Brahman or God, your true self. Like a wave recognizing it's the sea. Right on, Brian. 100%, brother, 100%. That's what it is. And a lot of people forget that. And even using the word God in relation to Brahman or Tao is kind of like, it's tricky terrain, right? I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. But a lot of people, if they say God, they think of a creator God. And so I tend not to use the word God a lot when relating to like if I'm talking about Shiva or Ganesha, or even if I'm mentioning like the Dharmakaya or Tao, I don't try to compare it to the Abrahamic idea of God. So I try and distance myself from that. So excellent. Where are you guys? Where are you guys? Where are you located? Brian, where are you located? Eccles, where are you from? Where is everyone from here? Huh? And what I wanted to ask you guys is, I asked you before, but which book of mine is your favorite? Which one is your favorite? Vail, Colorado. Wow, Brian Island, love it. Joshu, some of his videos are really good though, when his Messiah complex doesn't take over. I don't know who you're talking about there, but Shivananda, I'm from Canada, but in the US right now. Love it. Brian Kelly, Dao De Ching. Love it. Salinas, California. Albuquerque. Gotta love it. Pojaku. How do you say that, Art? So I don't want to butcher that. New Mexico. I'm asking you how to say that, but you can't even talk to me. Yeah. Stefan, Halifax, Canada. Love all your books. They are all related. Elam Onaru. Pojo Aki. Santa Monica. Danny, still there. Love it. Guys, what is your favorite video? I mean, I hate talking in favoritism, but just to get conversation, what is your favorite video that you've watched in the last few months from me? Is there any particular podcast that you liked or any particular content? Don't mention the documentaries, anything outside of the documentaries. That's not a few months ago. That's the start of the year. So is there anything particular that you liked? Try it this way. Pohake. Alyssa. Sorry. My pronunciation in English is bad enough. Art, yes. What about, out of the books, since you're not doing the videos, out of my books, which one do you enjoy the most? Who has read, which one of these books do you guys enjoy the most out of those ones? The video about different yugas got me thinking. Shiva, excellent, awesome. Which one? The documentary. Okay, see, well done. Joshua, the one where you explained the ego is fire. Really enjoyed it. Love it. Re-listening to Effortless Living. Dan, 100%. 100% on point. So I'm assuming Effortless Living is probably one of your favorite books of mine. I really like that video podcast on the dangers of self-help. So glad you like that. There's a lot to talk about that. I think actually Brian mentioned something about, I think was it you, Brian, mentioned something about Tony Robbins. Anyway, we won't go there. So yes, Jason, I don't believe in Abrahamic God either. I know that, brother. I was just clarifying for other people. That's all. It's more like the Tao, or Spinoza's concept of God, isn't? Yes, that's right. I know. I knew what you meant. Yeah, I just threw it out there for other people. Yes, that was a great podcast, Dangers of Self-Help. Yeah, a lot of people like that one. I got a lot of good feedback on that one. I think that a lot of people in the world are afraid of being mediocre, afraid of being ordinary. And I think that that's nothing to actually be afraid of. I think that that's a silly fear. I think that that's bred by this, this hyper hustle porn that's going on. We live in this hustle porn world now where we've got to get after it. We've got to go and get it. Got to make a life for ourselves as if we don't already have life. So that sort of hustle porn mentality always makes you believe that you're not good enough. And what does Eastern spirituality teach you from the get-go? You are always good enough. Always good enough. You don't have to go out there and, pretend to be someone you're not. Don't do anything like that. Jason, I don't believe. Oh, no. Yes, indeed, Art. Jason, goodbye. Take care. Joshu, bless up, brother. Thank you. So good to see all you guys. Yes, yes, very, very, very good. What about books, guys? Before, Dan, love to you and Guy Young. Let's do it again. Congrats, 30,000. All you need is another 7.999 billion. Is there that many people on the planet now, Dan? Jesus, it's getting crazy. If only, brother. If only. But I don't think that's going to happen. But as long as there's a few, then that's all well and good, yeah. Finish reading Zhuangzi and the Becoming of Nothingness. Oh, I love it. Did you like it? What did you think of it? What did you think of it? A lot of people are see. The thing is that you can read a book that's academic, and if you're not academically minded, it may not appeal to you. A lot of people can be like that. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I've read a lot of books. I've read a lot of books where it's been way over my head, but I try to understand some academic books. And in doing so, that helps me formulate my opinions on certain things very, very well, and helps me evolve in my understanding. So I don't shy away from academic literature. I actually lean into it. Very good. Excellent. I haven't read any of your books. What would be the first one? That's a tough one. Eccles. I would say first one I recommend. What are you interested in? Taoism, Buddhism, Hinduism, all of the above? You tell me. Ken Fu, thank you, Jason, for the Q&A live stream. Got to go. Have a great week. Ken, much love, brother. Nice to meet you. Love every minute. I must go back and read it. Yes, for sure. Shivananda, I started reading the Bhagavad Gita by A.C. Bhaktivedanta, but got really confused when it called Krishna. Shiva, the thing is about the Bhagavad Gita as it is, which you were talking about, is coming from the Hare Krishna movement. There's inherent problems with some of those texts. I'm not saying that they don't lean into the traditional knowledge, but the Hare Krishna movement has become its own thing, and a lot of Hindus in general don't subscribe to that movement. That's why you see actually a lot of Westerners subscribing to the Hare Krishna movement, whereas you might see a lot more people in India attracted to more of the traditional translations of the Gita, which I do recommend you read. And I don't recommend you read that version. Eccles, all of the above. Okay, all of the above. I would say read Effortless Living. Read Effortless Living, and then read Fasting the Mind. In that order. Alyssa, Taoism, haven't read any of your books either. No problem, Alyssa. No problem. Hopefully you get the chance. Brian Kelly, just wondering, Jason, what do you think of Khalil Gibran, the Prophet? I loved that 10 years ago, maybe. It's quite inspiring to me. Love it. Brian, one of the saying this is one of the simplest books for people to understand is maybe a little bit demeaning, but it's one of the greatest pieces of literature in the world. Let's put it that way. Thank you for your answering on the topics. Another question, if I may, any recommendation on books about Zhuangzi? which author, which author I mean. I've answered this one before, IFC fan from Canada, is I recommend the Burton Watson translation. It's called The Complete Works of Zhuangzi, but Zhuangzi is spelled here CHUAN space TZU, and this is the way, that's the Wade Giles romanization. We don't need to get into semantics, but that one I highly recommend. I think they may even have it in the Z, in the Pinyin romanization. I recommend the Burton Watson translation, the complete works though. So the whole, that's the inner chapters and the outer chapters and the miscellaneous chapters. And I recommend grab a book. It's a bit academic by Hans-Georg Maueller. It's called Genuine Pretending. That kind of gives you a little bit of an insight into Zhuangzi's mind and his stance on morale. I mean, he's leaning in towards amorality, also the idea of not playing your roles, and so forth and so on. So I highly recommend that one as well. Yeah. So go ahead and grab yourself a copy of that. There's a lot of ones on Zhuangzi actually. Actually, they mentioned Art mentioned one before, which you could have a look at. Zhuangzi, The Becoming of Nothingness, by David Chai. There's so many actually scholarly texts on the Zhuangzi, but I recommend those two. Just start with those two and see how you go. The Hans-Georg Maueller one can be a little bit, you got to take your time with that. Actually, another one I recommend is The Way of Zhuangzi, as I mentioned earlier, by Thomas Merton. That may give you kind of Thomas is, he plays with the text a little bit, yeah, plays with the text, but I think that you will really enjoy that. I think you'll really enjoy that. Eccles, what do we got? Recently, I've been listening to a lot of Sadhguru. Do you like him? Do you feel his work is solid? I have mixed thoughts on Sadhguru. I learned a lot from him a long time ago. I don't want to say much negatively about him. I like him. I think he's a good man. I think he's a good man. But I don't know. There's a funny thing when spirituality crosses over with politics and other like strange things happen. You know what I mean? Strange things happen. I mean, I enjoy watching some of his debates with atheists and stuff like that. I've enjoyed those in the past. But I often think, why you put yourself in that sort of predicament in some sense, because there's an old saying that when someone's mind's made up, you're not going to change it, right? And so I come from that perspective. When someone's mind's made up, you're not going to change it, and there's actually no reason to be honest with you. You don't have to have everyone think like you. I mean, that's a sign of insecurity. So I like his work. Do I feel it's solid? Elements of it, yes. I would say there's some advice that he has given in the past that I would not personally agree with, because they may be his own personal intuitions. But I don't need to get into that with you. I mean, if you like him, you like him. If you don't, you don't. That's all well and good. Thanks for the great responses, Jason. Shivananda, thank you. Thank you. Dave C, thanks, Jason. Have read Fasting the Mind, reading Science and Practice of Humility now. Kind regards from rural Vic. Oh, Dave. Australia in the house. Love it. You're the only Australian here, Dave. Apart from me. All right, Vic. Love it. Where in rural Victoria, Dave? Give me a shout out. Brian, one of my favorite Zen books is Zen Mind for Beginners. Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. Yes, great one. Yes, I love it. Shunro Suzuki, only have high praise for the man. Alyssa mentioned that I didn't read any of your books as far as Taoism. Would love to hear what books of yours you recommend for me. Okay. All right. You want to know, Alyssa, you want to know books in relation to Taoism? I would say get Effortless Living, obviously. Not obviously, but that's a book on Taoism. Fasting the Mind. I recommend this one. And actually, my new book, Emotional Intuition for Peak Performance, is kind of a way of, let's say, in some sense, actualizing a lot of what I write about in Effortless Living and Fasting the Mind. And if you want general philosophy of Eastern philosophy, I recommend Eastern Enlightenment now. What do we got here? Eccles, sure, thanks. Shivananda, in my opinion, Sadhguru's lifestyle is a contradiction. If you are on this path, you won't care about fame, money, road trips on motorcycles. All you would care about is being with God. There's a few ways to think about that, Shiva. A few ways to think about that, actually. I think that, who are we to decide what Sadhguru does, right? If he wants to enjoy a motorcycle ride, let him enjoy a motorcycle ride, right? But this is a problem. This is what Lao Tzu pointed out with Confucianism, actually. The problem Lao Tzu had with Confucianism mainly was moral hypocrisy, right? So it was about spiritual teachers pretending to be something that they're not, and still just being human, fundamentally, right? That's why Taoism became a philosophy that is radically human. So personally, I don't have a problem with Sadhguru's lifestyle. But can it look like a contradiction, and can you relate it to like a sadhu or a traditional yogi? No, you can't, because and see, this is the thing. This is what I've told people on the channel a lot. You have a lot of famous gurus, a lot of famous spiritual teachers, but some of them, the most profound spiritual teachers that I have met in my life, you've never heard of. And they've been like in a small community in rural India, or they've been up in the Himalayas in a little hut. And that's where they've been. And no one knows about them, only if you know the local people in the area. And they are practicing proper sadhana. They are away from society and so forth and so on. So is Sadhguru practicing that lifestyle? Or did he once upon a time? Yes. What he told us is that he was on a lengthy sadhana for a long time. Does that mean that sadhana leads into fame, fortune, motorcycles, and so forth and so on, golf and helicopters and I don't know, horses for courses, isn't it? I don't want to say anything about it. Dave, southwest coast near Yambuk, brother. Love it. Yambuk in the house. Brian, Jason, can you speak a little about being in the zone, which you are good at, the Wu Wei thing? It is interesting. Okay. Yes, Wu Wei is, see, the problem that people have is that it's a simple thing, right? Like if you're in your own way, then you won't be able to live Wu Wei. And then what I mean by that is if the persona is strong, if your personality is strong, if you are, if you believe too much in who you are, your beliefs, your conditioning, your culture, your religion, and so forth and so on, it's hard to come into contact with Wu Wei. There's no doubt about that. So it's beneficial to try and decrease that. I don't know if you guys can hear the vacuum cleaner in the background, someone in the hallway vacuuming. But it's important to down-regulate your sense of self. Now, even in cognitive science, Brian, you probably know this from, I think you're familiar with Edward Slingerland's work and also Daniel Kahneman's work. In down-regulating that sense of self, then you come into that greater power. That's the power base of all of us, right? And so that is what is actually the real power base of us. But our persona eclipses that. It's like putting a dam in a river, right? Your persona is the dam. And the river, it still goes over, but it's impeded. There's an obstacle here. And that stops you from living your life fully. It stops you from having a fully fledged life and from manifesting and living a peaceful life and all the things that you want to do in life. It blocks you from that. So in that way, being in the zone and being in the zone in life in general is about down-regulating that sense of self. And that's what's extremely important. And that's what we all ought to do. And that's actually what happens when you do practice meditation a lot, because you're down-regulating this, right? This sense of self that's in the prefrontal cortex here, where we have the intellect and we overthink and we overanalyze. You are down-regulating this which allows you to let the universe make use of you instead of you trying to control life. The universe is going to take over. Something along those lines, Brian. So there's a lot I could talk about that, about being in the zone and Wu Wei. But that's basically, and especially athletes and artists and that, they try to train themselves. Actually, they are, in some sense, training themselves subtly to get into that zone. When they say, like Guy Young practices violin, right? So after over a decade of practicing violin, she can get into the zone easy because she has all that prior training. Likewise with meditation, if you have a lot of prior training, it's easier to be more in the flow. Does that mean I'm personally in the flow all the time? No, Brian. I wish I was, but it's something that I do focus on for sure. Eccles, what would you debate between a Taoist and Hindu? What would a debate between the Taoist and Hindu look like? How would a Taoist criticize Hinduism? That is that's a tricky one. That's a tricky one. First of all, a Taoist would avoid debate first. So there wouldn't be a debate. And they would just allow a Hindu to live as they live. If they would critique Hinduism, if they were compelled, it's not in their nature to debate someone, but as they critique Confucianism, if they would critique Hinduism, it would be not to attach, it would be that the cultural tenets of Sanatana Dharma, of Confucianism, are beautiful and beautify the world. Yeah, they make the world beautiful and they make the tradition beautiful. But if you are only focused on rituals and the customs and the cultural tenets, without the deeper exploration of yourself, this is going to end up a problem as you continue to live through life. And this is actually why, in some sense, the Jnani evolved in Hinduism, because the Jnani, in some sense, opposes. It's like in the Atma Bodha in the Shankara text, right? Shankara is saying that you just can't get to that deeper understanding without Jnana Yoga. You can practice karma or bhakti, but you're never going to get there because you're too fixated on cultural tenets. You're too fixated on rituals, customs, so forth, so on. That's what Lao Tzu would say. Get beyond that. Doesn't mean you don't do it. Zhuangzi would say, play your role, Enjoy being a Hindu, enjoy the Sanatana Dharma, but remember your original face. Shivananda, funny you mentioned about real gurus in India, Jason. There was a guru that actually cured my grandpa's eyes. Wow. But no one would believe me, even if they saw it happen. There's a lot of, because the reason why Shivananda is because there are a lot of people, a lot of fake gurus out there that have warped certain knowledges about cities and so forth and so on. It's not, not your fault, not your grandpa's guru's fault, or it's not saying that didn't happen, but it's saying that there's a lot of people out there who pretend, and that actually makes people overly skeptical when they hear things. So you said it happened, so that's wonderful, but remember, there's going to be people out there that are not going to believe you, and that's okay. I say a lot of things I say things to my wife that she doesn't even believe me. So I wouldn't be too worried about that. No one has ever heard of him. Yeah, well, most authentic gurus and that you've never heard of. That's just the way it is. That's the way it is. Brian Kelly, thanks, Jason. Got a bit emotional there because often the only thing that gets in our way is ourselves. Nice answer. Thanks, brother. Thanks. Really appreciate it. Really enjoyed the stream, guys. This is going on 3 hours. Jesus Christ, I'm running out of water. My throat is parched. I hope you guys got a lot out of it. Yeah, like I mentioned about the 3 tours. Someone asked about that. I asked you guys which one you'd be interested in: Kathmandu, Tamil Nadu, or Bodh Gaya, and also a lot of feedback from you guys about doing this once a month. Sorry, my throat's parched, so it's kind of like, kind of losing my traction in my throat here. But if you guys enjoyed this, then I'm obviously I'm open to continuing this as a monthly thing, kind of like a catch up. Yeah, like we could do it as a catch up, like with the community and about what I've been talking about on the channel, and we could just run with it, yeah, and just see where we go. And it can be a Q&A like we're doing today. And actually, I like this Q&A format because I really like what a lot of you guys ask me. And there are a lot of questions actually that I don't even think about, which actually reveals some blind spots that I need to think about too. So that's really good. And it's more of a transaction of energy with you guys. So I really deeply appreciate people. I really do. It's means a lot to have the community. Yeah, means a lot. 30,000 subs. It's really, I love it. I love it. Let's get up to 50, 100, grow the community, and hopefully people become more interested in authentic Eastern spirituality. And that's my goal really with this channel. Yeah. I remember back, short story before I leave, back, I had already written a few books, and I had a YouTube channel, but I never took it seriously, And so it was about 2015 when I said to Guy Young, I think I should be doing more like on YouTube, maybe like having like free online lessons and stuff like that about this. And Guy was really positive and supportive, and she went out and sourced like studio lights and cameras and so forth and so on, all the things that I probably couldn't do. And we ran with enlightenment today at the beginning, and it's become what it has, and and it's not a big channel by any stretch. I'm not getting ahead of myself. It's still a small channel, but I'm just like so blown away by the support, by you guys. And I even have like, good support on Patreon, and I have people that are really dedicated. And Brian, it's a community of love and great Eastern wisdom. Good on you, brother. Thank you, man. Thank you. Really appreciate it, guys. So much love and support. Love you guys, man. Love all of yous. And what would I do without you? Yeah. What I do? I always get them. Guy always says I'm just emotional about everything. You could turn on like, don't put on the Green Mile, that movie. No, I'm just not going to make it. Not going to make it without a dry eye. So, I don't want to start blubbering and gibbering on more for you guys, but thank you, my friend, for your work. Keep going. If you see you in a month, I guess. Yes, let's do this. What is the date today? The date is the 20th. Let's try and shoot around the 20th or something every month. That week, that Tuesday or something like that. Yeah. I personally found the teachings of Jesus make more sense to me when filtered through Taoism, Zen, and Hinduism. Yes, I've had a lot of Christian friends, Eccles, that have actually said the same thing, my friend. They've actually said the same thing. And I would actually say that too, because I've studied Christianity a lot when I was younger, and has made more sense to me through Eastern spirituality. Does it mean that I'm not Christian and I don't follow Christianity, but the teachings make more sense. I've actually had Catholic friends who have, I've gifted them a copy of the Tao Te Ching or the Bhagavad Gita, and they often say, "Man, thanks. Like this has helped me understand a lot more." So that's music to my ears. Music to my ears. So, guys, much love to you guys, man. Namaste, namaskar, shanti, shanti, shanti. See you guys in a month. Remember, tomorrow I'll have a video on the 20-minute Zen meditation. So that'll be on Wednesday. Yeah. So make sure you guys, get over to that, like that video. Make sure you're subscribed if you haven't subscribed today. And Stefan, thank you, mate. Thank you. What do you say? Wait to listen more, you, and also waiting for your next book. Yes. Thank you. Eccles, thank you for your kindness. Namaste. Guys, I don't want to leave because there's still 19 of you guys here. But anyway, the chat slowed down a bit. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Much love and appreciation to all of you guys, man. I really love it. Yes. What can I say? Thank you. And have a good day. Shanti, shanti, shanti. Music to our ears too. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya, Brian. Thank you. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.